Okay, so welcome again, Sammy. Nice to have you back, and hopefully some other people will join us very shortly. So meantime, I think let's just dive into today's teaching. So I'll just share my screen quickly. And we'll get into the quote, and then it will lead us into the lesson. Okay, so let's make sure I've got the right up. See, okay, just gonna share the screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
So if you can read the quotes and then go into the first paragraph.
Healing takes place when grievances are given ample and patient space to be acknowledged, when there is transparency and honesty, when everybody is given the chance to be heard, when nobody is excluded, when people can accept the energy of the conflict and use it as a major opportunity for growth.
Nice quote. Like conflict resolution and healing, how that actually heals the conflict. Okay.
Today's inspirational quote by Franco Santoro, a healer and founder of Astro Shamanism. God, I've never heard of that.
Neither had I, but check it out. There's a link if you want to.
Oh yeah, I didn't check the link. Good idea.
Yeah.
Who has studied A Course in Miracles and is connected to the Fintorn Foundation in Scotland, gives you a powerful way to heal your grievances and the conflict in which they result by first acknowledging them. To deny the grievances exist before giving them ample and patient space to be acknowledged, as Franco Santoro puts it so eloquently in the quote, only sabotages the healing process, because denial before acknowledgement is called repression or suppression and only compounds the emotional toxicity of the grievance. Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a classic, isn't it? The difference between feeling it or not feeling it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to go into the feeling to heal it. Which is what's painful for a lot of people. I don't want to do that.
No, I never used to. Spiritual bypassing is so much more comfortable.
Well, temporarily, yes, but it doesn't really resolve anything, unfortunately.
Of course not, no.
Yeah, so David Hoffmeister uses the term metaphysical ghosting for that same idea of spiritual bypassing. It's the same thing, just different terminology, which is the inappropriate use of denial based on the metaphysical idea everything that happens in this world is illusory, or to gloss over and avoid fully acknowledging the negative feelings that grievances are made up of, and so keep them repressed or suppressed in the subconscious mind out of conscious awareness. So it's very sneaky of the ego, but that's what it is. So I'll use the truth to gloss over what is actually a major opportunity for forgiveness and not really learn the lesson, because I've just got, oh, well, it's all an illusion. Actually, I'm not really willing to look at it. So that's actually being used as another defense. To not look at it, not really, bring these thoughts and emotions into conscious awareness so they can be released. which is rather sneaky, but that's, the ego will try and use even the truth for illusion. So the way out is look at them, acknowledge them, feel them, but have an awareness that what it is that you're looking on and feeling is unreal. That's in the back of your mind, that this isn't absolutely true. So it's just a temporary thought and emotion blowing through your mind. And once you've felt it fully, acknowledged it, and then done a process to let it go, reminding yourself that, okay, these only love is real, nothing else is true, nothing else is real. These feelings are just part of the dream, part of the illusion. But you've really, you've acknowledged them, you've looked at them. It's not done on a superficial level. Then you're not metaphysically ghosting. Then you're actually going into the negative thoughts and emotions, experiencing them and releasing them, which is the only way, really. Whereas if you just metaphysically ghost, I mean, I'll give you an example. I had an issue. Actually, it was around the time that David Hoffmeister came out to South Africa, and there was a lady who was sort of a local course teacher, and she kind of wanted to run the whole show. And there was a few of us, we'd organized the kind of committee to run it, and so we kind of, I had to just say no. This isn't going to happen. She got her nose way out of joint, and there was this at the end of the tour. She sent me this email where it was all judgment and condemnation mostly, and then finally she ends it as like, "Oh, well, let the healing begin." Right. Okay. So your email's tone and the ending. So I suggested that we have a Skype, as it wasn't then, I think Zoom existed, a Skype call to chat about it, or I think she was actually in the same city, to actually meet and just try and work it out. And the response came back was, "Oh, well, it's all an illusion anyway, so we don't need to." Rather than actually going, okay, well, let's actually go through a process to release some of this stuff. So that was a classic example of, and I just learned about the term because David had just been out, and he talked about it in his workshops and on the retreat. So I was like, okay, well, that's a classic use of it. So it's all an illusion, so we don't really need to do any work, and we just gloss over it, and but those feelings are still there. So that was, in my experience, a classic example of it. If you want to share anything, any experiences you had, feel free. Either of you.
Oh, Sally's just gone, but yeah, I've had that. It's very easy to say it's all an illusion. Don't worry about it. Let it go. But you have to work through the feelings and work through what the deep rooted belief is that's bringing up those feelings.
Like we did the other day with Instrument for Peace. Really using it to go deeper into the mind, to uncover those beliefs. That's the whole point of it, is to do that deep inner exploration, get to the core, and then once you really see the core belief, there's a natural kind of letting go. So really, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, but I see it, and I can see that that's totally false, and that's not going to work. And so then there's a natural, once you see the insanity of it, there's a natural tendency to let it go. So like, well, you can't hold on to it if once it's been exposed. But you have to kind of go through those levels, the instrument for mind, instrument for peace diagram.
I've just been into Colchester, and I found all the Christmas stuff. I don't even know what it's bringing up in me, but I need to do some kind of investigation to see what it is about Christmas. And it's probably, I know my mum never liked Christmas. It's probably all sorts of beliefs I've picked up from family and events over the years. But you need to actually spend the time getting to the bottom of those. beliefs. What it is.
Yeah.
It's no good saying, oh, I don't like Christmas, I'm going to shut myself away.
Yeah, well, it's all an illusion, and I'm still uncomfortable, but I just dismiss it.
Yeah.
With that thought. It's about really doing an exploration into what are your core beliefs around it, through that issue, and then you can actually release it. So going through these levels, metaphysically ghosting would be, well, it's all an illusion, no problem, but you haven't really journeyed through emotion, looked at it. Okay, so what am I feeling? Acknowledge the feelings. What am I thinking? There's none of that exploration that's happened. What are the core beliefs that are behind the thoughts and emotions, and therefore what's the desire of my ego that's sponsoring all this, and really spend some time with it and look at it, and this is uncomfortable. And then you can change at the core level. You can change what you desire, what you're choosing, which then changes belief, thought, emotion, and perception. And then once you've gone all the way down and all the way up, you've kind of deep cleaned it. Then it's not metaphysically ghosting anymore. You've actually had a genuine shift. So useful to understand those levels and the process that you actually go through to heal. So that you don't just metaphysically ghost over whatever's coming up. Especially if it's deep-seated. I mean, imagine I just said to you, well, Jackie, your divorce all an illusion, so just let it go.
We say it often.
Yeah, but it doesn't really work, does it? You've got to go much deeper than that. It's just unreal. Well, if you fully understood that, then there would be no emotions. You wouldn't be reacting. So it's a process. You've got to go through the process of working, through these things, particularly if they're deep-seated, and that can take months, years, to because the feelings keep coming up. The ego is very deep-seated beliefs. So these layers of this thought system are like there in your mind, and they keep arising. And
yeah, and there's always more beliefs to find. You can't clear it all at once. It's when it's big and deep-seated and it's gone over, the issue has been created over many years. It's too much really for your nervous system to take on, I think, to release it all at once. It can be quite tiring. So you need it in stages, and I'm still getting stuff coming up in the illusion, which tells me there's more to clear. It's getting small. Yeah, it's a process.
Which is a helpful way of thinking about it, because it takes the pressure off. Okay, well, I'm in my process, and I'm not delaying. Don't use that as an excuse to procrastinate or delay, but I am doing the work. I'm working through this stuff, and sometimes it feels like I'm not making that much progress, but I just keep chipping away, like a block of rock. If you keep hammering away, chiseling away at a huge rock, eventually it'll crack. Yeah, because you've got you've put the hairline cracks in, but that might only happen on the 1,000th blow with the hammer and the chisel. And nothing seems to be happening while you're hammering away to get there. But eventually it'll crack, because you just persistently you just kept hammering away at it. So that's forgiveness. It's really it's for stickers and plotters. just keep at it. If it's not happening straight away, and it's difficult, because you are chipping away at that great dark block of emotion and thought, which is the ego. So where are we? Just trying to find where that's gone. Okay. See if we can find that. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, so metaphysical ghosting, also known as spiritual bypassing. So Sally, you could read the next one. Needless to say.
Needless to say, this is not a healing approach at all, and will not release your grievances and help you experience unconditional love and the peace and joy that flow from it. It's just another sneaky way your ego or belief in separation try to sabotage any real healing of your mind in the guise of being very spiritual and achieve its objective by only temporary. This delay in your healing may last a long, long time if you keep following its guidance. The metaphysics of truly letting go or following all your grievances are literally mind-blowing, and do take some time to understand, because you cannot understand them with the ego mind that made up the optical delusion of consciousness, as Einstein called it in his profound quote. The significant problems we face.
Oh, wrong quote. Sorry. It was a
No, wrong one.
little. Well, it's actually a good quote, but I'll show it to you here. Mary. Seem to have missed that one out in the email, which was remiss of me, but never mind. So human being is a, there we go.
Human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty.
Any thoughts on that? And what do you see?
Cheesecake this time.
Jackie?
Like a shark.
It looks like a
Or something.
shark.
It's like a shark in the sea or something in the sea.
Yeah. Looks like a boat.
Boat, yeah.
Yeah. So look again.
See that as a boat
Mm.
or that as a cheesecake?
Oh God. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. It didn't really quite look like a boat, but
Yeah, a lot of
it
people
was.
go, when I saw it first, it was like, first glance. So it shows you that reality is interpretation. You see what you want to see, and there's a belief behind it. And then you realize, well, actually I've been confused. I didn't know what it was. So there's a demonstration. It's a reality is perceptual, optical delusion of consciousness. And so so often we're completely wrong about what we're perceiving.
Yeah, because I've just eaten my evening meal and would quite fancy a piece of cheesecake, so that's why I see cheesecake.
Yeah.
And Jackie's been doing solicitors' letters from some sort of shark that's attacking her.
Yeah.
But it's so
interesting.
Yeah,
shark. No, I've never heard that. It doesn't really look like a shark.
Well, it looks like, it looks sort of like the inside of a shark's mouth. If it's
Wow.
well, this white bit is. I wasn't sure about this brown bit.
Wow. Yeah. So that's an interesting. But you see how you interpret something completely differently.
Mm.
And so different people see the same thing, and so what's reality? Reality is perceptual because it's an optical delusion of consciousness. So there's no fact here. Everything here is interpretation. Which is what Einstein's really saying in this quote. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison of our misperceptions, by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty.
So talking about spiritual bypassing then, so the way I used to do things, I'd always look at the positive in everything. And there always is a positive if you look for a positive. But is that spiritual bypassing?
Well, were you willing to really go look at the reasons for the negative and undo them? That's the question.
Probably not in the old days. Yeah.
So, you know, if you look at this instrument for peace, it explains it quite well. You've got to go through the layers, get to the core belief, and then beyond that, the desire or the prayer of the heart. So what are you wanting? Is it the
Peace.
ego that's wanting to be separate? And to really see that requires a process. That's why the instrument for peace is a good process, because you need to go through it and work through it and really see it for yourself in a systematic, progressive way. Just kind of going, oh, well, you know, things aren't good, so I'm going to gloss over it and I'll just focus on the positive. It's not really dealing with the negative, is it? It's like to use an analogy, if you ever saw What the Bleak Do We Know? Did you watch that movie? It's like the icing on a rotten cake. The one guy used that analogy. It's like a little bit of positive thinking, and he said, you know, that's all well and good, but it's like a little bit of icing on a rotten cake, and you're just trying to make everything look good without really going into the cake and saying, well, why is the cake rotten? Which is you know, analogous to going into our mind and going, well, you know, why is my mind rotten? Because I have, you know, all kinds of false beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and I need to really look at those and excavate them, and it's uncomfortable. And then see that it's all just my desire to be a separate self that's behind it. And then you'll change your mind. Well, okay, I don't want to be a separate self anymore, because I've seen the consequences. I've experienced this. It's really not nice. It's horrible. So I'm willing to let it go.
Most people don't think about being a separate self, do they? It's not like a conscious choice. I made that for you earlier.
No, it's all happening unconsciously, but they continuously, you know, believing that they're a separate self through their thoughts and their emotions that they experience on a habitual basis. So it's any thoughts of, you know, fear, anger, attack thoughts, guilt, projection of guilt in the form of blame, all of that is
So I suppose that's why somebody eventually shoots a whole load of school children in a school or bombs something, because they've suppressed, and it's got so much that it's just exploded out, isn't it? And it's noticing those little niggles, the tiny little niggles. I had one yesterday. It was just a tiny little niggle, like, oh, why would they do that? And then it occurred to me that would be the same sort of feeling. It was just a feeling of being miffed, but that is like suppressed anger that could build up, and you could murder somebody in the end.
Yeah. So, you know, he says at some point in the course that even a minor irritation is a cover for intense rage.
Yeah, that's it.
Because behind all of that minor irritation is this raging thought system of the ego that's really, really, really angry. And you know, wants to project that anger out onto whomever. And it's not rational. But when you start accessing that rage, then you're actually starting to make some progress. You know, if rage comes up, you know, okay, well, I'm moving through something very deep-seated and profound, because beyond rage lies the core of your ego, core belief. There's a guilt behind rage. So you're uncovering the rage, which is one level, letting it go so that you can uncover the guilt and the sin and let that level go, because then there's nothing else. Completely free. Yeah, so does that make sense?
You can see somebody else in intense rage that, you know, comes from guilt,
No?
not see that feeling of, not necessarily feel the rage at that moment or see the guilt in yourself, but I guess at some level it goes, at some level in the subconscious mind, they must be mirroring an intense rage, intense guilt, even if you're not personally seeing or feeling it.
Yeah, so it's uncovering it and really being able to see it. Because the moment you see it in yourself and you're consciously aware of it, there's the opportunity to let it go. Okay, I see this finally. I see. Okay, I see the pattern that I've been playing out for many years, because it's now become conscious, and I can choose again. I'm not governed by any of it.
Well, I'm thinking more when you see somebody else's rage coming at you. It's, which can be perplexing. But presumably it suggests that there is rage somewhere in your thought system.
Yeah, if you're experiencing it, then it's part of the ego's thought system, and there's a part of your mind that's affiliated to that. That's part of it. That's why it's all projection. So you must clean your own mind entirely in order to be free of it. There's no point blaming someone else and saying, "Oh, well, it's you doing this." The only way out for you is to clear your own mind.
Yeah, I had the same. And I used to think, why is he was his ex-husband now, but he was husband at the time. Why is my husband angry all the time? Blimey, he's got a real anger problem. Then the younger son used to have anger. It's like, and then eventually, oh, I must have suppressed anger. And then as we were separating, it seemed like he was really controlling. And then I had to go, uh-oh, am I controlling? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Quite funny when you own it,
Yeah.
when you've been blaming someone for a while and then you suddenly,
Yeah. Who's the common factor? It's you. It's not comfortable, and the ego won't want you to do it because it exposes it, and you get to see what its game is, and then genuinely let it go. Once you've gone there, and actually genuinely let it go for it never to return.
And then it's really empowering, isn't it? Because not somebody's doing it to you. You're actually being able to do it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Listening, you're listening to guidance. It's not really you, but if you're following you have to make a choice to follow the guidance. That's your responsibility. Okay, I must listen to the Holy Spirit, because it can speak to me all I like, but if I choose not to listen, then I'm going to block it out and can't help me. I must choose, and choice then collapses the ego ultimately, because it was made by a false choice. So it's logical that by choosing correctly, we can then undo it. Okay. Any other thoughts on that diagram? How it fits in? Understand that the reason I like this process is you can't metaphysically ghost. You have to, if you do the process properly, you have to go deeper into it. So the first time we did it, Jackie, you didn't go deeper into it. So that would have been metaphysical ghosting. We'd stayed there because you never really explored it. But when we went into it and we really used it to uncover these emotions, thoughts, and beliefs, then you've actually done something authentic and quite deep with it. Then there's a correction, there's a clearing of emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and sense perceptions that underlie them.
Yeah, that's where it really helps to have somebody else
go
through it with you, because it's so easy to
ghost over it and go, no, it's fine, I got this, it's fine.
Yeah, well, I think it's when you're deep in the heightened emotion, there's something there and you've got to let go of it. But when it's like a sleeping lion, it's very easy not to feel it and think, oh, I've dealt with that.
And then just focus on the externals. The ego tells you, well, that's okay, you've dealt with that, so go have some fun, look for pleasure, look for something outside of you, rather than going within. And so it's always externalizing.
Yeah.
rather than going within and going through a process like this, and digging deep, and because it's not easy work. It
No.
takes time. It's not easy work. You've got to re-experience sometimes painful emotions and thoughts, and your ego doesn't want you to do that.
Mm.
Okay, so actually we're on the seems to keep losing this for some reason. I don't know why. The mind, back in there. Okay, so hope it stays like. All right, so well, needless to say, not a healing approach. We read this one. Needless to say, this is not a healing approach. I think I read that one. And of course, we got to the significant problems. So Einstein then said, as well, do you want to read that, Sally?
Significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. Yeah, I love that one. That's really resonated recently. Mm.
So he's actually talking about, I mean, that could be a quote from A Course in Miracles. He's talking about the levels of thinking, levels of mind. Exactly, what we're looking at in this diagram. Given this diagram was given to David Hoffmeister by Yeshua, so he's saying, okay, there are these levels of the mind, and then Einstein comes along and says, yeah, there are these levels of the mind, and you can't solve the significant problems we face on the level of perception. Okay, it's talking. Let's look at these as levels. Level of perception, very superficial level. You can't solve the significant problems we face the same level of thinking we're at when you created them. So you can't solve them just at the perceptual level. Oh, well, I perceive a problem out there, so I'll try and fix the problem out there.
Mm.
The only way is to go into the mind, go to the very source of the so-called reality. And clean it all out. Go through the layers. And that's why courage is important on the journey, because you've got to be willing to face those emotions. Most people are scared of their own emotions, so they cover it over. They don't want to go there, and then they repress or suppress them, and they keep their attention focused on the perceptual realm. So I'll do something to distract myself. And the world was designed to be exactly that distraction, to give us many, many distractions, keep us on the perceptual level, and stop us from looking at the miracle and looking at the emotion behind it, and then through looking at emotion, thought, belief, eventually getting to the miracle. The world is distractionable. It's designed to stop you from going deeper and to keep you on the superficial perception level, where healing can never really happen. And that's why we have so many distractions and things that seem to take us away from our inner self. Okay.
Well, in
questions about
busier
that?
places, there's so much going on. I wonder whether there's sometimes less spiritually inclined people because they've got so much to distract themselves with. Perhaps that doesn't apply anymore. Now we've got so much online anyway.
Yeah, well, I think probably you'd find city dwellers, people who live in big cities with lots of activity and things going on, are more distracted, more distractible, less so-called spiritually oriented than than say someone living in a quiet country area,
Mm.
or walks in nature. And but obviously there are always going to be exceptions. In a city, you can awaken if you interpret it correctly, because you've got all kinds of lessons coming at you very thick and fast. In fact, the course itself was given to Alan Shuckman and Bill Thetford in New York City, one of the
Yes.
biggest, most complex cities on the planet. But there's a reason for that. He didn't choose some monk who's meditating 24/7. He chose people who were in the world and living in a very Western environment, which many of us do in cities now, with all the demands of a modern life and career. And they weren't, by their own admission, spiritual at all. So they were, they weren't really open to this. They weren't. Well, I suppose Helen had asked. She asked for help. So it came eventually, but they weren't overtly seeking for it. They weren't seeking spiritual enlightenment or anything. They were just, their prayer was, we just want to be happier.
Mm.
That was the prayer of the heart. We're not really happy and we want to be happier. So a great one to remember, significant problems we face personally and from a societal level. We can't solve them at the same level thinking we're at when we created them. It's obvious. And yet most people try and solve the problems on the same level.
Mm.
Not realizing that there's, because they don't know there's another way. So this teaching is showing another way. Which is what's needed. Okay, so significant problems we face. So because this is true, do you want to read the next one, Jackie? Yeshua's given us a very in-depth mind training.
Because this is true, Yeshua has given us a very in-depth mind training course to help us raise the level of our thinking to a higher level that's above the battleground of time, space, as he puts it in the course. So we can start to perceive everything in this world differently and experience unconditional love, deep peace, and genuine joy, because he knows that full understanding of the truth will dawn on our minds when we have this universal experience of what true reality feels like.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Well, it's that promise again that if we do the mind training that the course offers, we'll be not in the, what is it? Not be in the world.
But not, be in the world, but not of it.
In the world, but not of the world. That's a, our minds will be above everything that's going on and connected with, the Christ mind.
Universal experience of what true reality feels like. So ultimately, this is all experiential, pointing beyond dogma. And the conversation about, how I was banned from that one organization because, I don't fit the dogma. But it's not about dogma. That's ridiculous. It's about experience.
Yeah.
But this is what, people who haven't necessarily had the mystic realizations themselves, they cling to the dogma because that's all they have. They don't have the experience. So you have to then, okay, well, we'll stick to the dogma of the whatever the religion is, because that gives us a security. No, we know the truth, that we stick to the truth. But someone who's in the mystic experience of truth doesn't have a need for dogma anymore, because they understand it experientially. They're like, it's beyond that. So they can't feel threatened because they know that experience is true and real.
Yeah.
And if someone else's dogma disagrees, they know from their own experience that that dogma is false. Ultimately, all dogma is false, and it's all beliefs and conceptual beliefs.
I think the idea is that the course is a complete thought system, which it is, but it's a thought system to point you to an ultimate truth, not to be the ultimate truth in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's well said. So the course is not the ultimate truth. I mean, even says, this course is beyond it's not about teaching you the meaning of love. That's beyond what can be taught. But it's about teaching you to identify the blocks to the awareness of love's presence and let them go, because that can be taught and learned. And then that leads you to the ultimate experience, the universal experience, which is beyond any dogma. It's beyond anything anyone can teach you. He says, I can't teach you that, but I can teach you how to let go of the blocks to that experience, which is your natural inheritance. And that's, where the course is set to get us to look at these blocks and systematically let them go. So we can be free of them.
Yeah, which is, an extended meditation can help you do.
Yeah. Any sort of deep process to really look at the mind. And that's, that's what much of the workbook focuses on, mind watching. Okay, so go look at your mind. What's happening? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Become aware of what you're thinking and feeling. Realize what it is, because then he's giving you the guidance as to what's true and what's not. So you bring it into conscious awareness. If you realize it's false, then you've brought the illusion to the truth. And the illusion must disappear once it's recognized as false.
Yeah.
Really understand it's false. There is just in that realization, a release.
Yeah.
And it'll just, even if it tries again, you no longer believe in it to the same level. You can't be fooled as much because there's been a thought in your mind of, no, maybe, this isn't real. I can't be fooled anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Question?
No, I'm okay. Any questions?
Okay, so next one, but like any good teacher.
Like any good teacher, he meets us at the level of understanding we're at when we start his course, which is almost always in a state of not fully understanding the truth and experiencing unconditional love, deep peace, and genuine joy consistently, as he reassuringly says in the introduction to the workbook. Remember only this: you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept them, and you need not even to welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist. None of this will matter or decrease their efficiency.
Efficacy, yeah.
Efficacy. But do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains, and whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than that is required. Sorry, somebody has walked in.
Okay. Does that make sense?
It's nice to know that you don't have to believe them.
Yeah.
No. It's
Initially,
nice.
anyway, saying you need not accept them to start with, just practice them. So if you're just willing to do it and practice, as he said, then you're making progress. And at some point, you will start to believe them all. If you keep working with this, it starts to make more and more sense to you.
You do hear sometimes that you don't need to understand the course, and I think that's fine when you start. It's comprehensible, but at some point, you do need to really understand it.
Yeah, but it's a journey.
Yeah.
And initially, you know, the whole point is he's saying you're not going to understand it. to start with. That's why you need a course. If you understood it, you wouldn't need a course. Everyone would understand it. There would be no need for a course and teaching and learning and any of that, because everyone would understand.
Yeah.
There's giving it to us because we don't understand, knowing that we don't understand, and saying, well, I'll give you something that's helpful. It'll take you on a process. If you work with us over years, yes, you will. Your understanding will grow and develop. It has to. Or you can give it up. Those are the options. Some people go, I can't deal with it. No, and so they abandon the course anyway. They might not abandon all other spiritual work. But the problem is that if you're in the habit of abandoning it when it gets tough, then it doesn't matter what path you do. When it starts to get down to the nitty gritty, which is really looking at the ego and undoing it, then you're gonna be uncomfortable, and you're probably trying to abandon whatever path you're on.
Yeah, you just said giving up when it gets tough. Did you say that, or did I just hear that? But, oh yes, that's what often happens. Somebody will get to a tough bit in their development and then give up and not go there again. That's a real scuppering technique, isn't it?
Yeah, I know it's too difficult, so I'm bailing out, and then I have a false belief that no, I can't do that. I can't do this. No, I've tried the course, but it's just too difficult. I couldn't get my head around the language or whatever the excuses, so I won't go there, and that's an ego defense to prevent them from going into where they need to go. And really, working deeply into the mind using Course in Miracles. There's other paths, there's other ways for sure. Yeshua even acknowledges it. He said this isn't the only way, and there's many paths to God, but this is the way that's been presented to you, and it's a highly effective way if it's done correctly. It's going to point you into aspects of the mind you maybe didn't even know existed.
If you've got a belief or a habit of giving up when it gets tough, it doesn't matter what route you take or what avenue you go down, you've got a tendency to give up, haven't you?
Yeah. If you're used to quitting, then it's a habit. I know it's too tough. I can't do this, so I'll bail out. And the heroes don't quit. They're like, never give in. Winston Churchill, never give in, never give in, never give. I love it. So simple. It's saying, don't give up really on what matters. Don't give up on the one thing that you need to learn, your true purpose, which is who you really are. So don't quit on that, because you're giving up on yourself. You're giving up on truth, on God, and what's left is then you're settling for the scraps of life, trying to find some kind of satisfaction and salvation in scraps. And all the great teachers say the same thing. Go for it. Go the whole way. Give your whole heart to this, because anything less than that is actually giving up on yourself. You watch that, remember that Steve Jobs talk I posted a couple of weeks ago? What was his message? Finally, he said, "Don't settle." To the graduates. So it was a great message. As most people are like, well, you've kind of got to compromise and you've got to adapt to the world. And his message was, don't settle for less. Don't give up on what's your true purposes, what you feel is in your heart, and settle for whatever the world gives you. He'll give you a job with a good salary, but not necessarily any kind of purpose behind that. And he was saying, keep looking for your true purpose until you find it. Don't settle. So really, it was an invitation to the hero's journey for them, saying, don't settle just for what the world gives you. Be the hero and keep looking, keep exploring on that hero's journey to find your ultimate purpose. And then the expression of that in the world is what's going to inspire you the most.
It's also going in the direction you know, you've got to be discerning of what direction you take, because you could take a wrong direction and keep pushing through, and everything in the universe can be telling you this is the wrong way to go, and you could be going in the wrong direction. So it's like, yeah, you need the guidance, don't you, to know that you're going in the right way, and then going in the right way without stopping.
If you go in the wrong way, then it's going to be a very hard path, and it's not going to feel easy and happy and joyful, and you know, it's going to be like grind and graft and grit, you know, the classic kind of A-type personality going, right, you know, I'll get through this, I'll do this, even though you know, I don't enjoy it. I work really hard because I want the end result. And they kind of grind their way through, and if they don't change that, sooner or later they probably have some breakdown. Those are the people who have, you know, nervous breakdowns, and because what they're doing isn't sustainable. Whereas, you know, if it's coming from spirit, I mean, I'll give you an example in my own instance. You know, this program that I'm facilitating, running, I mean, I've times where I'm like, you know, the workload is extreme. So do I give up on it and say, no, just like that's not in flow, or do I dig deep and say, okay, you know, I'm gonna do this? And so there's got to be a feeling within you that, no, this is worth it. You know, this is in the service of the spirit, and I actually love what I do. It's just sometimes the amount of, you know, content and hours is extreme. But fundamentally, I love what I do, and so yeah, I think it's worth just finishing it. You know, so do it. But it's you know, it's coming from a Holy Spirit saying, okay, we'll just, you know, persevere, and it may be difficult, but I'll guide you through that. And it feels right. I think that's really how you know. Just, you know, something within you feels absolutely, this is right. I know I'm meant to be doing this work, and you know, so I must continue with it. If the going gets tough, I'll continue, because you know, it has a deep meaning and significance to me. Whereas if you're just persisting from an egoic point of view, then it doesn't really have a meaning and significance. You've made one up, and it will always be about the external outcome. No, I really, you know, like always in the future. No, I really want, you know, I'll keep going because that goal's motivating me, even though, you know, I'm not enjoying the process at all. And, you know, so there's no, you know, acceptance of the now and no enjoyment, then that's the ego, and that won't sustain. You can't do that for too long. So you're in it. If you're hating what you're doing, then sooner or later the body's probably going to get sick. The mind will make you sick. Something will happen to correct it if you don't listen to the little prompts saying, no, you know, this isn't the right path for you. Get off and do something else. So it's subtle nuances. You've got to really tap in and ask for the guidance, and you get clearer guidance when you let go. As you let go, you know, that guidance comes through more and more, and then you just know what's right for you. It may not be for anyone else, you know, so that's why it's always dangerous to ask advice of someone else. Well, what would you do? But they're not you. They're not journeying your path. So ultimately,
yeah, you know,
I'm going to tell you.
I completely follow what you were saying. How I look at my situation, I think, well, I hate that I'm involved in this legal process, and yet, do I just give up? I mean, I'm willing to just give up, but it always seems, no matter how many times I say, okay, whatever, there always seems to be something else. You know, you agree to something, think it's settled, and then something else comes up.
Can you get to the place of acceptance of like, I'm not resisting it? That's really where you want to get to start. Yeah. I may not actively enjoy the process, because that's a bit too much of a stretch, but I can be in acceptance when I do it. So I'm not going, I'm hating this, I can't stand this, why is this happening to me? That's resistance.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just, okay, So, this is what's happening. Not ultimately real, but it seems to be happening and might happen for a while longer.
Yeah.
So I will, without resisting it, no, negative emotion, no aversion reaction, which is a
Yes.
craving. I'm craving for it to be some other way than what it is.
Yeah.
Also called, resistance, or grievances. You have a grievance against the way something is.
Yeah.
Number of names for it: aversion, craving, grievances, resistance, and that you recognize that's not helpful.
Yeah.
You need to let go of the aversion reaction, so that
Yes.
you can just be okay with whatever you need to do. See, so
Yes.
from that place of acceptance, without the emotional resistance, okay, you can just do it.
Yeah.
Use the Nike saying, okay. So you need to, whatever you need to do, speak to the lawyer, send an email, read a letter. Okay, I'll just do it without resisting. And if you notice resistance come up, then your practice is, well, I need to let that go and just be okay doing this. And it will probably keep happening until you're okay with it.
Yeah.
When you've accepted it and there's no more aversion reaction, then it's a sign of forgiveness, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
there's no negative emotional charge anymore.
Yeah.
You're going through the process and you're just doing what you need to do
Yes.
without any negative emotion. So that the personal self is no longer invested in the situation.
Yeah.
It's just you taking instructions from spirit and going, okay, well, what do I need to do? All right, do that without any emotional charge or drama on it at all.
Yeah. That's where I need to get to.
And that's
There's,
when
there's
and
an,
this is your practice as it comes up and you're dealing with it. It's like, well, what great practice, because you need to learn to let go of resistance through
Yeah.
the practice. That's big part of the forgiveness. So okay, this is, can you accept that this is your spiritual practice for now?
Yeah.
That's really the thing. I'm not resisting it. I accept that this is happening for my highest good. This is actually all by divine design. This is my spiritual practice to help me to undo this ego.
Yeah.
And so it will last as long as it lasts. As long as I need the practice, it will last. And when I'm done with it, then it will probably resolve itself. That's how it works.
Yeah. I do still react. It feels like a completely inexplicable fear. But while that's still there, I still get this sort of fear reaction to the emails.
Yeah.
Because, I know it's it'll be another mental
it's irrational,
phase.
isn't it? But
It's
that's
the
the
fear's
ego.
irrational.
So it's irrational fear of death, and that something's going to happen, and you're going to be punished, and it's guilt and fear and sin all wrapped up into that irrational emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It feels terrible. It's horrible. It's a thought system of death. So every time that reaction happens, you go, oh, okay, good. Okay, there we go. There it is again. Okay, so now work with it.
Yeah.
Let me release this. I don't have to think these thoughts. I don't have to feel these emotions.
Yeah.
I can work through them using 10-step process. Did you try the 10-step Let and Go process, by the way?
I haven't. I will do that actually. I'll do that over the weekend.
Give it a go on the weekend. Yeah. Spend half an hour to an hour actually writing it out yourself, and you'll find that helpful. So print it out and actually write it out with a pen and paper. That's what I'd recommend.
Okay.
Because that's the process. You work through it in writing, and actually going through the 10 steps is the process of doing the healing and the clearing. If you try and do it in a minute or two, you don't get that process. So just write it out and really let it come. Whatever needs to come, you just allow it to be expressed out. No one has to read it. It's for you only. And there's another way then of dealing with that resistance and the negativity, to get to the point where eventually you might just be neutral. Lawyer's letter comes in, or email from your ex-husband, or whatever, and you just, okay, well, I'm really not that fussed. doesn't really bother me. I'll do what I need to do, but that fear reaction's gone.
Yeah. That's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah. Well, and it's
Surprise is still there, actually. Very surprised, but it's still there. It's deep.
well, it's deep-seated fear. You know, guilt. Remember, in the ego's thought system, it's guilt and let's go back here. You've got the individuality, it's the decision to separate individuality. Then underpinning all of this is guilt and sin. So we think we've really done this. We actually have pulled off the impossible and destroyed God or oneness. And so now we feel guilty for that, and we feel like we deserve to be punished. And that's fear. False expectation of punishment appearing real. So that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
It happens. Now there's the punishment coming upon you. Oh, you know, fear of death. And it doesn't, you can observe that it's not really proportional to you know what's happening. There's no fear of death in what's happening. It's just, you know, legal papers and documents and whatever. But it's triggering a deep metaphysical guilt, fear, sin program that then arises, which is behind the whole thing. You know, this is the core program of the ego. So that's what's behind the ego's identity. And this particular situation is triggering it for you, which is excellent. Because many people don't get that level of trigger. So theoretically you go, yeah, okay, well, there's fear and there's guilt, and you can go through a diagram like this and you can understand it intellectually, but it really, you know, the rubber meets the road when you feel it.
Yeah.
There's this deep-seated pattern is actually erupting in your life. It's coming into conscious awareness, and it can be, you know, very difficult to deal with, because that's when you get to apply this teaching on a practical rather than a theoretical level. This, you know, understanding the theory, well, if you got a reasonable intellect, you can understand this. It's not rocket science. Okay, you understand how it works. But to actually, you know, in your life, when the guilt and the sin and the fear are so present and so deep-seated and trying to pull you down into that darkness, to then let go, you know, that's where the rubber meets the road of this course. That's what he's training our minds to do through all of this mind training. So, okay, when it gets tough, then, you know, because of the mind training that you've done, there'll be a deeper understanding in you that no, this isn't correct. Not the right way.
Yeah.
Then you can be free of it. So you understand, I mean, that the beauty of the situation you have, because it's so deep-seated, it's triggering the very core of your ego to arise. Well, that's really good, because now you can get to the core of it and you can release it. And you don't have to waste your time pussyfooting around in the illusion for years and years. You've actually got a deep core that's pointing you straight to the core of the ego right now.
Yeah.
So you're very lucky, actually, from a spiritual point of view, to have such a, you know, huge forgiveness lesson now, you know, when you're studying the course, is extremely fortunate. So that's, you know, as Sally said, it's reinterpreting, isn't it? So you see everything as a blessing. Oh, okay, so got another lawyer's letter, great. So in more of a, because this is going to help me to free myself. It's going to help me free my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to go through the process. Now, why would you resist a process that's going to free your mind?
Yeah.
You understand that that's what it is.
I mean, I suppose, I mean, certainly when, you know, the emotions are high, you know, I use havening, and I've learned transcendental meditation. There are various ways of dealing with that. But sometimes they're so high, nothing touches it. But I guess it eventually comes down. Sometimes it seems to need a reason. You know, this is the, you know, the core belief. It's this event in childhood or whatever. And then, you know, if you can find it, then you can clear it that way.
Yeah, but the core belief, you see, is actually this. The core belief that you're getting to is you decided to separate at some point. And there was no reason for that. So that's where you're going with this, because you can go to childhood, but that's not the real reason. The real reason you're experiencing all of this is because you decided to separate once upon a time, which started time, and that thought of separation is behind all the pain and the suffering you've ever experienced and anyone's ever experienced.
And this thought of separation is, way beyond coming into this incarnation. It goes back to the very start of time, and that's 70,000 incarnations ago.
Yeah, it's the very core of the whole dream. It's like what kicked the whole illusion of time and space off, and then within that you now have apparent lifetimes and time and space, and so it's a huge idea, even though it's false, but it's the sponsoring idea behind the entire reality that we've miscreated. And so that's where you need to go with this, and realize that ultimately you're not going to find a good reason. What psychotherapy does is they'll go and they'll look at childhood and stuff, but that's not the real reason. Oh, okay, well you have this complex because you're abused as a child, say. But they haven't really got to the core of it, have they? Because the core of it, behind that, before the person was even born, is that they believed in separation. And so that's why they're in a situation where they're now incarnate and they can be apparently abused, and they're in a world that seems to be so hostile and fearful. They're there because at some point they chose to separate, like we all did. There was one decision to separate, and that one man says, well, you can go the other way. Right now, you can choose to be one again. You no longer have to believe in the separation at all, in any way, shape, or form. And when you do that, then you're free in the mind, because you no longer believe in any of this. You recognize all of it. Anything that comes from a false idea must be false. That's the impeccable logic of the Course. And then you just see it. You start seeing it so clearly. The clearer you see it, the less the ego can confuse you. And when it tries again, you go, but I can't really buy this. I know that this is just a guilt, sin, fear program trying to hook me in. And I don't believe it anymore, because I've corrected my mind to the point where I know that this isn't true. Only God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness is true.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get your mind around.
Well, it's simple. It's so simple, but it's huge, because it's one tiny mad idea that became a huge idea. We made that idea the idea behind our entire identity and reality. One idea that's false. So we gave it the power it has. We gave it the power to govern our entire reality. Give us our identity, give us an apparent reality, determine our fate, ultimately kill us. But that giving it that power was a decision. So when we bring it into conscious awareness, we realize this is a decision to continue to believe in this or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to believe in it anymore. So in the end, it's a decision, isn't it? Not like something happened to you and you've got to go and you decided to separate. The desire of the ego is to be a separate self. You decided to separate, and that decision, which you're probably still making subconsciously, is behind all the grief and the pain and the suffering you've ever experienced. So the miracle just says, well, change your decision. If you decided to be separate, recognize that you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not separate. So the prayer is then, let me be one self. I want to be just that one self, the Christ. I just want to believe in oneness. And from that belief, I now have a whole different set of thoughts and emotions. I see everyone as one. I don't see competition anymore. I see unity. I want to help my brothers. I'm loving and I'm kind because I recognize that they're all one with me. And that ripples up through emotion and then perception. Your perception changes. Someone does something which previously you might have judged, and you go, well, I just see you as you are, and this is all just a cry for love. So my response then is to be loving and kind. rather than judgmental, angry, and condemning, because I can no longer do that. I've realized that judgmental, angry, condemning thoughts and emotions come from the desire to be a separate self.
Yeah.
And I no longer want to do that to myself. So you boil it down always to that, then you're getting to the very core. So you're digging through those layers, and if you can get there quickly, so let's say you get an email and you notice that horrible fear arising.
Mm-hmm.
So the awareness of the fear, okay, so just look at that. Okay, there it is again. And you can do it with a little breath breaks. You breathe and just become aware. As soon as you breathe, you create some space and some awareness around it, don't you? That's the value of breath. Just create some space in your mind, so you're not completely possessed by the reaction. Notice the thought. Okay, so what's behind this? Behind this deep-seated fear is guilt and fear, and this is the so you understand this. You understand. Okay, I've created a separate identity, and that separate identity is very fearful that it's going to be destroyed by God, just now created in its own fearful image, for the apparent sin of destroying God or love. Well, does that make any sense? How can you be killed by what you've destroyed? First of all, the logic of that doesn't make any sense. If you really had destroyed God, then there would be nothing left. And so why are you fearful? So it doesn't make sense from that point of view. And it doesn't make sense from the point of view that you can't really destroy God. Not possible. You didn't really ever do anything to oneness. You just thought you did. Nothing really ever changed. So there's nothing to be guilty for. Therefore, there's nothing to fear, because you were never guilty. So there's nothing to be punished for. So fear just deconstructs. There's nothing to be punished for. So I don't need to be fearful of anything. And this whole bubble, it's a thought bubble, just starts to dissipate. And that's the way you then undo the fear. So you go through the levels, you get to the very core, and you go, well, do I desire still to be a separate self? Because when I desire to be a separate self, and what I'm really choosing is all of this. If I desire any part of separation, I've got to go with all of it. Mm-hmm. Then I choose all the guilt and the fear and the attack thoughts and the accusation, the blame, and fearful, vengeful, wrathful God, and continuous accusation, blame, attack and counterattack, living in an unfair world as a victim, living a helpless, innovative little life, limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, death. Wow, that's just that one belief. This is what it lets me in for. Do you really want that belief? Because that's all it is. And so by understanding all of this and unpacking it as he does, you just can't choose it anymore. He's making it impossible for you to consciously choose the ego anymore, because you know too much. You understand how it works. You realize the mechanism of it is insane. Okay, so that makes sense. But can you see how the metaphysics are important? You've got to bring them in to really do the healing. So otherwise, let's say you're divorced from your metaphysics, you don't understand this, you're a psychotherapist, someone comes in and you're looking for the cause in this lifetime, in their childhood. Saying, well, the cause is this trauma. Okay, so well, great, we've identified the cause now. Now we're going to try and forgive it. We're going to try and help you to release it in some way. But you've made it real, so then it's very difficult to release. Because you've identified it, then the person goes, oh, okay, so that's the cause. So I believe that that's the cause of my problems. And the second problem is it's not actually real. That isn't the ultimate cause. That's again, it's just another. It's removed from the ultimate cause, which is your desire or intention to be separate. That's the ultimate cause of all of it. And Yeshua's saying, well, that has no cause. That's just a false desire.
Yeah.
So this is total liberation. He's getting you to, about understand the metaphysics. You can really, let it all go. Say, any idea of separation, whether it seems to have come from my childhood because I had a childhood trauma, all of it is false, because all of it is a projection of a mind that is believing in this false idea. So I just can't take any of it seriously, and then I'm free.
Yeah.
Does
It's,
that make
well,
sense?
I mean, as I said before, I struggle to get my mind around it, but then that's the ego mind that can't get around it, isn't it? Who doesn't want to know anyway.
But it's just a simple idea. Like, so when you've got to let go of anything, you're making a choice. So do I really want this? Do I really want separation and this painful negative feeling and all the consequences of the ego? And you just have to look at your life and look at the world, and you can see those consequences very clearly. Do I really want this? Can I consciously choose this anymore? And the answer is surely no. No, I absolutely can't consciously choose it. So I choose to let go. I won't think those thoughts. I just dissipate it. It's a strong emotional charge, and going into an altered state, doing a meditation can really help. Okay, I'm going to transcend that level, and I'm going to go into the level above it of just pure awareness. And then the ego's days are numbered. This entire thought system will go eventually, because it doesn't make any sense. When you look at it like this, it doesn't make any sense, does it? How do you make sense of any of that? Is there any reason or purpose for such a thought system to exist?
No.
No. And then you can see that very clearly. So just when you're tempted to make it exist, don't. Just remind yourself there's no reason for this to exist. So it doesn't really exist. There's no valid reason. Okay, so let's go back to just losing my place for some reason. Gmail. So where were we? I think we were here. So Yeshua, do you want to read that, Jackie?
So Yeshua is giving you the easy way to study his course and get maximum benefit from it. Simply practice the workbook lessons by following his instructions and allow the universal experience of truth to arise automatically in your mind. So it's about trust.
Yeah, he's saying, look, you don't have to know already the truth. Just practice. I've given you this workbook. The ideas are work. This is an effective process, because like I know what I'm doing. I'm a good teacher. So follow the process. Just do it, even if you don't believe. Do it anyway, and you'll see that it will unfold. Your understanding will grow and develop. And so it's actually quite straightforward. Just keep practicing.
Yeah.
Just requires some diligence. Everyone can be diligent. Everyone can have a bit of self-discipline. Don't have to be particularly bright, intelligent. In fact, often the people who are not that bright and intelligent are the more diligent ones, because they have to be. The gifted ones are like, well, everything's too easy, so I don't really have to work at it. So they don't know how to dig deep. So it can actually be an advantage to be somewhat less intellectually gifted and just go, well, I've got to stick at this. I'll just keep practicing this and studying it to get this, because that's what's required.
Yeah.
Just, chip away at it.
Yeah.
And then allow the universal experience of truth to arise automatically in your mind.
Yeah.
In time, if you keep correcting your perception and clearing away all the garbage, then the universal experience of truth will arise. more and more. You'll experience more flow, more peace, and you might be lucky and get some revelatory experiences or mystic experiences. Who knows? But you're heading in the right direction. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And then it's just, it's a great surprise. Whatever happens, great. I acknowledge it. I see it for what it is, without expectation. What you don't want to do is go, well, I'm looking for the spiritual high, because then you're in expectation again.
Yeah.
No, I'm process oriented. That's the essence of flow. I'm doing the work that I need to do. I'm practicing the workbook lessons, and I'm reading the text, and I'm doing my spiritual practice every day. And I trust that if I just do the process, then the experiences that I need will come through that process. And that's out of my hands. I'm not trying to create my own experience. I'm just surrendering to whatever experience shows up. Yes. Letting myself be guided into more and more of this universal experience by the Holy Spirit. And then, to make your task even easier, I've been inspired to record meditations and breath breaks. So instead of having to read the lesson, go, okay, there it is. Just put a recording on, which makes it really easy. You can listen for 3 or 4 minutes, put the recording on, listen, practice, just be guided through the breath break or the meditation. You don't really have to think about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
So that makes it even easier. You don't even have to read and interpret, and just listen in a very passive way, and just be guided through the process by listening. So try and use the recordings every day.
So the recordings give you the bulk of the text of the lesson, but you still need to look at the lesson to get the instructions, or presumably.
No, the recordings will have in these shorter lessons, they've got the text of the lesson as well in there, because they're only 2 paragraphs, so I managed to get it in there. And then the longer meditation includes the insert on the second coming we're on at the moment, which he recommends you read beforehand. So if you do that twice, 2 longer meditations, you do the insert and you do the lesson twice a day, and then in between you top yourself up with a reminder of the lesson, and there's some breathing in there, so you're actually letting go. That's your practice of ongoing letting go, using the lesson as the catalyst for that letting go. So you make letting go then just part of your daily life all the time. You're doing it, which kind of makes sense. If it's the most important thing you can do, then it should be a regular practice every hour. Ideally, you're practicing letting go.
Yeah.
Of whatever's arisen in the previous hour, whatever's arising. So the ego just can't really stick around then. It's got no traction, because you just every hour you doing something to clear it.
Yeah.
So it's ongoing, spiritual practice and clearing to reveal this true self much more effectively, much quicker than otherwise.
Yeah.
So just follow the program. There's Yeshua's instructions that he's giving in the workbook, which are already pretty clear. And then I've just put some tools in place where you just have to listen. It's all sent to you. You just make the time to listen, and if you listen and you're doing that several times a day, you're doing this. That's all you have to do. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to try harder. It will just start happening if you listen and you follow. Obviously, if you're actively resisting the listening, I'm listening, but I'm not really listening. I don't want to listen. Well, it's probably not going to last. You probably wouldn't do it for very long. It's an acceptance again. Okay, I'm just going to listen, and I'm going to go through the process. And if I say breathe in, then breathe in, and you're learning to follow guidance, aren't you, in that process, and learning a bit of discipline. So giving the Holy Spirit the time to come in those 5 minutes and work with you. And so every time you're doing that, you're opening to the higher guidance. And if you keep doing that, you can't fail to get it, because the Holy Spirit's going to work with whatever you're giving it. So spiritual practice is what's going to accelerate your universal experience greatly. Which is why all the saints and the mystics and the gurus and the masters and the avatars, they all did spiritual practice, and they recommended it because they understood that was what was going to accelerate your hero's journey of awakening. And you could consciously do that. You don't have to wait for life to hit you over the head with a baseball bat to then let go of, whatever the pain is. You can consciously, progressively, systematically let go of whatever illusions are showing up day by day. And that's exactly I call it the path of mastery. That's exactly the path that Yeshua is giving us. Slow, steady, sure progress, rather than, okay, well, I'll just wait to be completely down and out and can't stand my life. I'm on the verge of suicide or death or something, and then I have a shift. The path of mastery is a much cleverer way to do it.
Yeah.
You're just making me laugh because being hit over the head with a baseball bat type analogy is exactly what happened to my son.
Really?
Yeah. Just he ignored all guidance and messages and everything, and then just in the middle of the night it felt like he was being hit over the head with a baseball bat.
Even though he wasn't.
Literally.
It just felt like it. Whack. Yeah.
And it woke him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
A clap from the universe, they call it. That's the one way. If you ignore it, then that's the way of the cross, I call it. So you're waiting for you have to suffer. You have to have that major kind of really traumatic experience to break through the ego's resistance. So you are going to suffer greatly. Or you can just go, okay, I don't have to suffer greatly. I can just progressively, systematically tune in, and when there's a bit of suffering that shows up, then, okay, I'll work with that. I work with the minor stuff, as well as whatever major stuff shows up. As we were discussing the other day, that's what you're doing. Okay, that's just a minor grievance, a little bit of irritation, a little bit of anxiety. Let's use that. That's all good. All
and then
good, letting go practice.
And when you've got something long-term going on, and you told me that analogy, like being in the boxing ring with ego, and you give the left hook and the right hook, and you just keep going, and eventually the ego goes down. And that was life-changing as well. It was like, you can't expect it to go in just one clearing, one instrument of peace. It's just you can't just do it and go, well, I've done the work on it. But you just got to keep doing it, haven't you? And keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah. It's a marathon. You're in, like, if you want to use the boxing analogy, you're up against, the heavyweight champion of the world, who seems to be very big and scary. Did you ever watch the Rocky movies?
Yeah.
Quite good mind watching, actually. There was the one with the very big, scary Russian dude. Huge, so that's the epitome of the ego. And Rocky's much smaller, and he's up against it because he's going into Russia to fight him, and the crowd's against him, and the refs against him. The whole thing's like he's up against it, but he just keeps at it. He gets knocked down, Rocky gets up, knocked down, Rocky gets up, because he's just like, I'm not actually necessarily a better boxer than him, but I'm just absolutely persistent. I'll just keep going, and eventually he just keeps going, and 15 rounds later, finally, the guy shows a bit of weakness, and he knocks him out. But he had to take. There's another. Actually, this actually happened in practice. So a great, given we're using the boxing analogy, you've probably heard of Muhammad Ali. I mean, he was one of the greatest, ever. So he fought a guy called George Foreman, who had a punch that was like, it could like knock apparently it was so huge it could knock a cow or a horse out. It was just like so much power. He could split a punching bag. So that's what he's up against, like big, huge, muscular, and he doesn't have quite the same power, but he's like, okay, so, but I've got he had a really good brain. and he was willing to just take the punishment. So he said, okay, I'm going to let this guy punch himself out on me. So he went like, and the guy's just slugging him, and just like whatever he could throw at him, George Foreman threw at him, and he just took it because he had a plan. He was like, okay, I'll take it for 9 rounds, and then you're going to be so tired because those huge blows, every one you throw is going to take it out of you. Eventually, George Foreman he actually couldn't hold his arms up anymore because he punched and he punched and he's punched, and Muhammad Ali just wouldn't go down. He just hunkered. So it's almost like that analogy of the ego. Okay, you give me your best shot, I'll take it all, and I'll wait and I'll be patient. And then in the 10th round, when George Foreman's like now, and it was Zaire, so it was really hot as well. So George Foreman was like, he was finished. Then he was like, right, I've conserved my energy because I've taken the punches, but I haven't done a lot of punching myself. I now have a bit in the tank. And then he took him out, left, right, so he was just really patient. And that's the way he won. So I guess it's the same with the ego. It's like, okay, I'm just going to patiently, I'll take whatever you have and I'll just keep working away. And sooner or later, I know that, this great, big, bad, hairy ego that seems to be impossible and invulnerable, it's actually very weak. It will eventually give way to the truth.
It feels like you're talking about Jackie.
Yeah, kind of. It's like,
it just sounds like you're just talking about like she's waiting, she keeps doing the work, she keeps doing the work.
Yeah, and you keep taking the hits. So you keep getting the hits coming in terms of all of the emails and the psychopathic husband and etc. Just keep going at you, and just you just take it and you just keep doing the work, and eventually that will go. Eventually, if you're persistent enough, the guarantee that spirit gives you is that eventually that whole ego story must go because it's not true. But it's like persist, because it won't just go straight away. It's very deep seated. You're dealing with the very core of a very nasty thought system. But be grateful that you are, because that's when you face it, that's when you can awaken. You remember Neo in the Matrix, he's got to go face the worst of it, this really ugly, controlling, vicious, aggressive agent who's like the symbol of the ego, who wants to kill him, right? There's no holds barred. It's like, right, I'm going to kill you, that's it. This is a fight to the death, and he's got to take him on, and that's his awakening. Because when he does, and then he claims his power. He's about to die, and he goes, no, my name is Neo. He claims who he is. He claims his Christ's identity. And then, he eventually has to die to the ego to be reborn. And the last scene of that Matrix was very telling, because he literally dives into him. You remember, he just somehow gets into him because he can see the code, and he just explodes the ego. It's all gone. It's just like, and he sits there at his core, in his spiritual self, going, okay. And the other guys, the ego just runs because they're like, we can't face this. This is the Christ. So, these are all just symbols to help inspire you. So, keep going. Just keep plugging away, and you will ultimately succeed.
Yeah. Because
the ego is not invulnerable and invincible. It's actually quite weak. And it's got to keep trying to pretend it's so strong, because it actually is quite weak. But the spirit is the true strength. So there's no way that anyone in ego can ultimately overcome someone who's in spirit. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So that should bring you comfort. It's not possible because you have the truth in you, and that's an eternal, invincible, and vulnerable truth. So how that's going to play out exactly, well, you don't know that. That's up to the Holy Spirit. But you know that you cannot be beaten. You will come out the victor, however that looks.
Yeah.
You go through the divorce process. It doesn't mean you get more material possessions than him, but you come out spiritually as the victor, because you've evolved, you've grown into the Christ self that you are through the experience. That's the victory.
Yes.
And so he's helping you to do that. Without the sparring partner, You see, without the Smiths and the whatever that Russian guy's name was, you don't get the test that you need to really discover who you are, to be the hero that you are. So it's all perfect.
Yeah.
He's doing you a great favor.
Yeah.
Remember that. Just doesn't always seem like
I just said the same thing. If you say it, eventually she'll believe us.
no? Yeah, but he is, because he's helping you to escape from your ego and from the whole matrix. Rather than have an easy life here, cushy life, and then you didn't get the lessons you needed. So okay, you got to come back, do it again.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to do it this time, get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I take it on board sort of intellectually.
Yeah, well,
And with faith, but
when the
rooted.
shit hits the fan, as it does, then that's the test, isn't it?
Yeah, and the failure.
Okay, so it's happened. The fear comes up again. Okay, but now I get to really apply this. In that moment, okay, what choice am I going to make? Can I let it go? And can I keep doing that? It doesn't matter what comes up. It's like, come, bring it on. You know what Neo said? It's been kicked to the end of the platform. Bring it on, he says, come. Because although you want to kill me, I'm finding a power in me that is invincible. It cannot be killed. I'm finding the eternal, immortal self that I am. So why am I'm not scared anymore? As Morpheus said, he's beginning to, because the operator is saying, what's he doing? He's facing, this is never unheard of. He's facing an agent. Morpheus says he's beginning to believe. He's beginning to find the deep power within himself that knows that he cannot actually be destroyed. But he needs the test of the ego to find that, because he's got to go through the fear and face the fear and overcome it. So you're facing the Smith, you're facing him down, and the only way you're going to do that is to find the Christ in you. And that's good news, because there's only one way. To face this level of attack and ego, you must go to the heart, to the very core of the truth. Which is all very good for you. So
2 weeks ago, I was standing right on the end of a train platform, waiting for my solicitors to arrive in a train so I could hand it through the doors, the document, which I hadn't received because it got caught up in my ex's 6-year mail redirect. But somehow it all became my problem. And there was a mail strike. And if I hadn't managed to get this document to the solicitors who were, miles away, I'd have ended up on the wrong side of one of the court orders and in jail and all the rest. So it's like I was living out the matrix.
Yeah, you were literally on the platform.
Right at the end.
Right at the end of the platform, and having to face it. But that's all part of the journey. See, it takes you wherever you need to go, and you're better for it because you've been through a trial that gives you strength. It's like, okay, I've faced it, and I've faced down that fear, and I've overcome it. I'll share an experience actually that might also inspire you. So it was about 11 years ago. I went on this whole, I don't know, you know about the free man idea. So you can be you're not bound by statutory law. Basically, the free man idea is that there's a common law which says that you shouldn't steal and you shouldn't kill, because those are not statutory offenses. Those are common law offenses, murder and stealing and rape and these kinds of things. No, it's not legislated that you can't murder someone. It's just an accepted common law. So there are these two systems of law. The one is statutory, and that's various governments have passed a multitude of laws to govern you. That's based on the illusion that you're a citizen of the country. And they give you an identity number or social security number, and they say this is you, and now because you're born into our system, you must obey the laws, even if you don't agree with them. So I was like, okay, I've studied all of this, and it resonates with the spiritual truth. So I decided that I was going to test it. So I didn't renew my driver's license because it was up for expiry, and I didn't renew my car license. So yeah, it's an annual license fee. You've got to pay, and you have to have a license disc. And I put a number plate on my car saying I'm free. So I was kind of like testing this, you know, but I did it quite consciously. It was like, I'm testing the system. I want to see what happens, you know. And I had to go up against some fear because it was, oh my God, I'm going to get into trouble, and, you know, I might go to jail. And so a couple of times I got away with it. And then once I was on my way to a retreat in Mozambique, and I was stopping outside a shopping center to in a small town in northern KwaZulu-Natal. If you know South Africa, you know where that is. But anyway, so it was quite a small town, and I'm driving through the high street, the sort of main road, and the cops obviously see my I am free number plate. So they're going to go, okay, well, this is like a red rag to bull. So they pull in, and they park me in, and eventually there's like 6 of them, and I'm arguing my case. I'm saying like, well, this is the free man stuff, and eventually they didn't understand it, so they just handcuffed me, pepper sprayed me, put me in a police van, and I had to go and spend a night. I mean, that was spent a night in jail with, you know, 20 odd black gentlemen, which was an experience. But I'm very glad I did, because I saw actually how the whole system works from the inside. And then fortunately I could, you know, bail myself out. And they wanted me to pay an admission of guilt fine. And I was like, no, I'm not guilty, because otherwise what's the point? So the prosecutor was like, really? You want to fight this? Most people just pay the admission of guilt and then it's over. So it's just revenue collection. So no, I said, no, I'll come back and I'll fight this. So I did. Went back 6 weeks later, and there was a friend of mine in that town who he had a whole thing going with a permaculture project. So he had quite a good relationship with the community. So I said, okay, so what are we going to do? So I'm going to come down. I'm going to give a talk to a couple of people. We got some venues organized. I'm going to give a motivational talk, which I did, and I got a guy to translate it into Zulu. And then I asked him for help at the end of it. I said, look, I've got this court date, Tuesday morning, I think it was. So, you know, will you help me? Because, you know, I need help, and I could help you raise some money for your project, and da da da. So they were like, yeah, you know, we're up for it. So I organized a bus, get like 40, 50 people. They arrive in the court. Prosecutor's like, what's going on here? We've never seen so many people in a little magistrate's court. And I'd prepared, you know, this whole Freeman thing. I'd want, okay, I'm taking this judge on, right? This is not just I'm going to lay down, and I'm going to take him on, and I know my stuff. And as you know, I can speak. So he's, but the key thing is don't get in the dock. So I stood outside in the gallery, and I didn't go because, you know, I'd researched it and I knew what I had to do. So when it came and he said, okay, you know, please enter the dock, I stood up on the bench. I had a loudhailer, and I started asking him a question. I said, no, before I do that, I have a question to ask. And it was over then. The judge just walked out. Before I could even ask the question, he just got up and he left. I was astonished. But it was like I'd faced down the ego. I was like, you know, and the night before I'd gone through like a bit of dark nights of the soul, and like, what happens if I go to prison, and what will my parents think, and da-da-da. But I overcame the fear, and it was quite extraordinary. It was really miraculous what happened. That whole system, which seems to be so strong and powerful, just broke. It just like he just left the courtroom. No one knew what to do, because I mean, the judge is in charge. This is his show. So the cops they were there to testify against me, who got me, they didn't know what to do. They're like, well, you know, we've brought you here, we've arrested you, we've brought you here, but now the judge has left the court. It's unheard of. So I just left. It's like, okay, well, I'm out of here. And about 2 weeks later, I got a call from one of the cops and said, oh, no, you know, you need to come back. And I just said, no. I said, you get the prosecutor to call me, because it's not your issue. He's passed the buck to you. You get him to call me. We'll set another court date, and we'll do this again if you want to. But next time I'll get pressed there. And I never heard anything more from it, because they were like, okay, let that one go into file Z, because we don't quite know how to deal with it. It's an anomaly in the system. But it was really powerful experience for me, because it was overcoming the fear. I had to face it directly, and potentially go to jail and all of the things around that. I faced it and realized that fear was an illusion. And it proved to be. It was just like, well, because I'd faced it courageously, disappeared. And that was a really important part of my learning, to go, okay, it is just an illusion. I really see that. But you have to take it to a point where a lot of people won't take it, to learn that. So I guess you're going through something similar. You have to face the whole system, which seems to be very unconscious and threatening, and face the fear and realize that it's an illusion.
Well, I mean, I tried to stand up for myself in court, because I kept being rushed in at 2 days' notice, representation, and stated the truth. But every time I stated the truth, I was given more punishment, more costs against me, more penal notices, more threats of this, that, and the next thing. But I do wonder whether I now need to actually take what's happened to the authorities. But my experience of that is that not a lot happens, because nobody cares.
But don't try and fix it on the level of form. So that experience I had, I went into deep meditation the night before, and there was all this fear arising. It really was dark. I remember it was like a dark kind of night of the soul experience. It was very dark, and I was just like, okay, but I know the principles. Find the light. I did this quite deep meditation for about half an hour, and I did. I really felt at the end of that, it's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. I really felt that, and there was like a light, a lightness that had come, and I had a certainty. I went to bed. I slept well. I was like, it's gonna be okay, because I've done. And that was where the battle was won. It was in my mind.
Yeah.
If I'd given into that fear, then the outcome might have been quite different, because if I'd gone in a fearful state. But I went in and I was like, okay, right. I'm not scared. I'm totally prepared for this guy. I'm going to take him on. I'm going to stand my ground. And if we have to go toe to toe for half an hour, I'm going to argue with him. I've got all my arguments. I'm not scared. And it was a done deal. He couldn't face that. He'd never faced anyone like that in his life.
Yeah.
He's used to people showing up, mostly black people who are not educated, not able to argue their case, don't have any legal representation, and they just, he just goes, well, there we go, judge, and off they go, and there's no challenge to his authority. Suddenly he's facing someone who's like, I'm challenging your authority based on spiritual truth, and he couldn't deal with it. I think he was probably told, so I think he had some inkling of what was coming, to just leave. It was not worth facing down, because in a showdown like that, the truth has to be exposed. That was the whole point. I would have gone into the whole, statutory versus common law, and recorded it, and then it goes out on YouTube and on the internet, and they don't want that, because someone's actually facing it and saying, well, is this actually true? Do we have to abide by all of these ridiculous laws, statutory laws, which are made up by governments we don't agree in, or actually is common law the truth? Is this whole legal system that we've been taught to believe in is the law? Is that all false? It's just a control system.
So you would have said it in court and recorded it?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do that. I mean, you're not allowed.
Well, I was outside of the dock.
Oh.
I had unfortunately, my girlfriend at the time missed the. I mean, it was only like a 20-second recording, but I said to her, just get this. And she missed the moment. So I don't have that moment when the judge walked out. It was priceless. It would have been brilliant on YouTube. So only a 30-second recording, but you would have seen this guy glowering at me. I mean, I would have died if looks could kill. He gave me a look like, and then he just didn't say anything. He just stormed out. He walked out. It was absolute. I was just like, what? I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to have to like really, fight my corner, and I didn't know what would happen. But I was like, I went in with courage and faith, and I'd done the spiritual work, and that was what did it. But it was an anticlimax. It was over in 20 seconds. He just abandoned ship. So Obviously different scenario to yours. That's probably not gonna, they're not just gonna walk out. You've got a court case and whatever, but spiritually, the principle is the same. Can you face that fear, that deep fear? Because it's really a deep seat. Oh, I've done something wrong. I'm a sinner. I'm going to be punished. That's the fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you face that down in your mind and go, no, that is just not true.
Yeah.
I'm not governed by that fear any longer.
Yeah.
That is not true. I feel the light. I know I'm the Christ. That fear is not going to govern my mind.
Yeah.
Anymore. And since then, I really, fear hasn't played a part in my life. I've just gone, there's really nothing to fear. Why, face down that. It wasn't death, but it was imprisonment. I could have certainly gone to prison. I faced it down and I overcame it. And I realized just what an illusion the ego is. And I saw it firsthand. It wasn't like theoretical experience. It was like actually did it and saw it. And, that's what it's about in practice. So you have the same opportunity here. How exactly it's going to look on the level of form, you don't know. But I let it go. I was like, I don't know how this is going to look, but I know I'm going in the right mindset. I'm ready to face this, consciously, without anger. I wasn't angry. It was just like, right, I'm going to stand my ground because what I believe in is true. This is a spiritual truth I'm standing for against this illusion of a system that seems to be so powerful. And because I stood in the spiritual truth, and the outcome was accordingly miraculous.
Yeah.
And it will be for you too, however that looks. That's the Holy Spirit's job. It's not your job.
Yeah.
And
That's
in the
very
process,
scary.
you will know who you are. You will come to discover who you are, which is the most priceless gift.
Yes.
And that you won't be scared anymore. Doesn't matter who you face. It'll be like, whatever, I faced the worst. So I'm not scared anymore of anyone or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the gift for you, to become that fearless Christ self. And then you can inspire others. People will be like, how do you do it? Well, because I've overcome my own deep-seated fear
Yeah.
of punishment and the guilt. And that's what you're really dealing with here, which is metaphysically, that comes from the idea that you have separated, you have done something wrong. You are guilty for that. You do deserve to be punished. And now the punishment has come upon you.
Yeah.
And it's manifest in your life. And on a level, your ego tells you deserve it. No, Jackie, you got to go to prison because you deserve this.
Yeah.
And you just have to face it down and go, it's all absolute nonsense. None of it is true. Not a word of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You are the Christ. You are that fearless self. And if you stand in that power, the ego has no spirit. It has no answer to that spiritual power. You will find a way then to overcome it on the level of form, however that works. And that's your journey to work it out.
Yeah.
And that's inspiring, because then you have a story that becomes a story that can inspire others, a story of your hero's journey.
Yeah.
And on the back of that story can come a book and who knows, a whole career in coaching people, and because people resonate with the story.
Yeah. That's what I feel. I feel like it's not over yet because the story hasn't reached. There's not a satisfactory conclusion. The ego character is winning and has won. So although I can, I want to let it go. I want to let go of everything that's gone on. I feel
you got to go deeper. You got to go
deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, that's partly why the thing's still going on.
Yeah.
Also why it's not a satisfactory conclusion. And I feel I need to do something to counter the injustice that's gone on. But as you say, only once I've really cleared that fear, because although a pretty good job of standing up for myself in that courtroom, and I took on his, I mean, I didn't have any representation because of the short notice he had a barrister, and I took her on and called her out for lying. but didn't do me any good. And I think that's because of the fear that was underneath it all. So you know,
maybe next time, you know, if you have another go at it, can you go in without fear?
well,
I went into that courtroom and I had no fear. It was just like, right, I'm here, I'm in the moment, I'm totally aware, I'm so psyched, I'm just ready to just do what I need to do, you know, to just be a channel for this power to come through me. I'd cleared the fear the night before, and it was like, right. And because I was in that state energetically, I didn't need to do it. It was like, okay, you've got it, you're in the state. And he would sense, I think he sensed that. He's like, okay, I'm facing something I've never faced before. So it's like, I don't get paid for this, so I'm out of here. I don't want to have to deal with this. This is not my, not what I'm paid to do. So energetically, I'd already done it. So it's like the battle is won within before it's won on the battlefield. You go within and you can really find that fearless state. And you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm doing it. Maybe you don't have a barrister. You represent yourself. I didn't have a lawyer. It's like, I'm doing it myself. Because there's no one better to represent you than someone, you know the truth. You know the truth.
Well, that's the position I took. And that's, I had a conversation with my solicitor, and that's what we decided. But I had no time to prepare. You know, his barrister statement came in the night before. I had less than 2 days notice because they have a direct contact with the judge. I mean, the whole thing is so totally biased and stitched up.
Yeah, so you're up against it, but that's classic. You know, you're the underdog in the ego's world, but that's how it works in this world. You know, the spirit seems to be the underdog, but the spirit is more powerful, and it will ultimately triumph if you just hold to it and you say, okay, I will go wherever I need to go. I'll go, I'll face the fear, I'll do what you call me to do. So if you have to go back to court, there's another lesson there. And all of this is training. This is your hero's journey, Jackie. This is your training.
Yeah.
To become the Christ. So you got to welcome it. You know, it's your personalized curriculum, your hero's journey of learning this great teaching in A Course in Miracles. Practically, experientially, not theoretically, oh, well, yes, I'm the Christ, but I don't really believe it. So there's many people who do the course on that level. That's a starting point, an intellectual level, but it's to really know it in your heart.
Yeah.
And you do that through an experiential journey, which is exactly what you have. So yeah, I mean, you're very graced, you're very lucky.
Yeah.
To have the opportunity.
Yeah.
At this stage of your life, you're still young enough to then have another 20, 30 years maybe of life after that, where you can then return and you can really do some profound work and really help people, having broken through your own ego. So this is like a rebirth experience for you.
Yeah.
Into who you really are, and that's this has been your whole life waiting for this moment.
Yeah.
To be born into who you really are, to come into your true purpose and your true power. And he's helping you to do that. He doesn't know he is, but he is.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, that's the greatest, revenge. It's like, go be the Christ. And he's actually helped you to birth into this whole new life and become this extraordinary person. That's would tear him up inside. He won't deal with that very well. At all. Suddenly imagine you use this experience and then you write a book and you've got a whole following of divorced women who are going, you're my hero, and I'm with you, and you're helping them, and you build a really good coaching practice or whatever, and you go on talk shows, and I mean, it would just absolutely kill him, wouldn't it?
Well, absolutely. Well, yeah, I have to be so careful because he'd come after me for defamation.
Well, just allow it, allow it to happen. The spirit will guide it all. That's just a scenario. I mean, who knows? I don't. Maybe that's.
Well, I mean, that's a fantastic scenario. Yeah, we'll see what
maybe
happens.
That is, maybe it isn't. Maybe that's the way. But right now, what you can do is you can go into the core of your fear and undo it. That's really the core, because everything will come from that. Once you've undone the fear, everything follows from that fearless state.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And the fear is still there.
Hmm.
Irrational.
So it'll keep coming. Understand, the lessons will keep coming as long as the fear's there.
Yeah.
You haven't actually resolved the core problem, which is that block of fear, the great dark block in your own mind that keeps arising.
Yeah.
So you need the triggers until you do. And it's just go deeper. It's like, okay, I've got to go deeper. You've done an instrument for peace. Are you doing the meditation every day?
Well, I've started doing transcendental meditation, so I'm doing that twice a day. I do most days do one of your meditations as well.
The guided letting go.
I don't know, whichever one I find.
So this
Something
one,
about something for about 25 minutes normally.
No, yeah. So that's good, but do this one.
Which one's that then?
This one, okay?
Oh, guided letting go, feet. Okay.
Yeah. It's in every
That's on
email.
the email, isn't it?
Yeah, you're getting my emails, yeah?
I have to
You
say,
getting my emails?
well, I am getting them, but I'm mostly, because I've got a bit of a thing about looking at emails, I don't look at them very often.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you can just go download this. All you got to do is click on it once. There we go. It'll open. So, welcome to, and then you just go save as, and you can download it. Okay. So I just give this
Desktop.
Yeah, download it to your desktop, or you can put it on your phone, wherever you want to put it.
Okay.
And then you've got it, and you don't have to go back into the emails. It's there.
Okay.
But this is like a deep clean for your mind, because you're going through the radical forgiveness process, 10-step radical forgiveness process, which I suggest you work through in writing as well. So you're going through that every day. And so, just keep doing it. You just deep clean, and it's an effective process. It'll help you to get to the fear. The fear might arise, and then you clear it, and you just keep doing this. Do it every day for at least a week, and then see.
Okay, I'll do that.
And this is the process I used in that dark night of the soul. I was like, okay, I'm going to go through the 10-step process, because it's like an industrial strength. Okay, something really, it's not just a minor thing. It's just quite deep-seated.
Yeah.
It takes you through all the steps really of forgiveness that the Course talks about in a quite a systematic 10-step process.
Okay.
So it's almost like the all of the theory put into one process that you can then practice. By doing it properly, you're doing the entire course. It's all built into the process. So use it, definitely. I've mentioned it to you again. So again, it's like, don't bypass it. Do it, because it'll really help you. Do the 1 hour at least for a week.
Yeah.
In the mornings, and then whatever else you do, the other meditation as well on top of that. But this is what, going deep spiritually, this is what will change your spiritual situation. So don't be confused by the ego is saying, no, you need to be working externally. No, it's the inner work that's going to do it.
Okay.
You go deeper and you do the inner work, and then the external will follow.
Yeah.
As within, so without. And most people don't understand that, but that is how it works. So to go fast, go slowly. Spend more time in meditation, really working through the issue in your mind, and then you're speeding up how things are going to unfold in the physical. And you'll see, just watch what happens. You take it to another level. Watch, then observe, because this is how you learn. Observe how your journey changes. What's changing on the level of form in terms of dealing with that situation. And you start to observe the subtle shifts, or maybe not so subtle shifts. I don't know what will happen, but you start to observe, and then you start knowing that it's changing because I'm changing my mind. I see that. I see the causal connection, because that's the miracle then that's showing you that this stuff really works and is really powerful. And then you're left in no doubt. There's no longer doubt in your mind, is there? Okay, so where are we? So we've done that. So this universal experience.
Sorry, that. I don't know. Sorry, was it your turn? This universal experience is the same experience all the saints, mystics, gurus, masters, and avatars who've ever lived have experienced and described. Carry on.
Yeah.
Therefore, never put them on a pedestal and make their accomplishments seemingly unattainable for a mere mortal like yourself in your perception, because this is yet another sneaky trick of the ego to keep you away from truth. You have exactly the same potential to experience truth as they did. Yeshua even says in section 2 of chapter 1 of the A Course in Miracles text that there is nothing about me that you cannot attain. I have nothing that does not come from God. The main difference between us as yet is that I have nothing else. This leaves me in a state of true holiness, which is only a potential in you. Lovely, isn't it?
So that's the invitation.
Nice.
Saying you can attain everything I've attained. You can become exactly like me, but you're not quite there yet. You have potential, but you need some more mind training.
Yeah.
Which is why he's given us his course. Isn't that a lovely picture? I mean, just like
It is lovely.
coming from the light, stretching out his hand, saying, "Follow me." You know,
Oh.
just follow my guidance. I'll show you the way. It's all okay, because I've done it. You see, the reason why we listen to Yeshua is because he's done it. He's got out.
Yeah.
He escaped from the matrix. He's no longer human, and so he can show us how to do it. Because he's done the whole thing and he knows the difficulties of the ego and being human, but he's transcended it using exactly this thought system he's teaching us. So then you can put your faith in him because he's done it. Human guides, they're still here trying to figure it out. Well, they haven't worked through their ego yet, have they? Because they're still apparently human. So that's why I was attracted to the. Well, initially I was attracted to the course because I wanted to be like him, like doing miracles, and but soon figured out that really wasn't what it was about. But what's kept me with it is like, okay, if I really want to escape, then here's a guy who has escaped. He's done it, so he's going to lead me out. He knows the way out of the maze, and so I'll follow him. He's leading me from outside of the maze, not from within it.
Yeah.
He has no ego investment. See, that's the thing. There's no worldly investment. He really doesn't care what you think about him. He doesn't care if you pay him money or not. All of those considerations are gone. He's just like, I'm going to give you the truth straight, and you take it or leave it, like it or don't like it. But I'm not going to mince my words and mollycoddle you because I have no investment in your ego. I have no egoic agenda at all. There's many teachers here who do still have that. So that's why we can trust him.
Yeah.
There's no other agenda than to free your mind. That's all he wants.
Yeah.
So he really does want the best for you, and he's willing to help you overcome your ego's resistance to what's best for you. And just be very patient, just continuously there, just waiting, waiting for you to learn, waiting for you to understand what he understands, and join him in the Christ mind as the one self. And become exactly as he is, which then makes you part of the at-one-ment. You're now part of the Christ mind that's helping others to atone. So in a way, you're teaching yourself. Yeah, he's apparently the placeholder for the Christ mind, but in fact you've already attained this outside of time. And now within time, this presence we call Yeshua is teaching you. But it's actually yourself teaching you. It's your own Christ self that's teaching you through the course. Kind of weird. Your own awakened self is teaching you right now.
Your unawakened self.
No, your true self is teaching
True
you.
self. Yeah.
Your true self's teaching you in your unawakened state. So it's almost like a time collapse.
Yeah.
You're advancing in time. You're getting a download from your future self, which is actually your eternal self, but this is your ultimate self, and you're getting it now to help you to let go of the false self.
Yeah.
So that's actually what's happening. And Yeshua is just, he was like the precursor. He did it for all of us. He was the first one to fully awaken. So he becomes the way shower, the one mind that's done it. But because one's done it, he can do it for everyone. That becomes the archetype for everyone to follow in time. Okay, so therefore it's not your potential for holiness.
Therefore, it's not your potential for holiness or true awareness, but only your willingness to experience the truth of who you are that is different from a spiritual masters like Yeshua. And the good news is that you don't need to understand much at this stage in your spiritual growth to practice the Course in Miracles workbook lessons daily. As he also explains in workbook lesson 9, however, understanding is not necessary at this point. In fact, the recognition that you do not understand is a prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. These exercises are concerned with practice, not with understanding. You do not need to practice what you already understand. It would indeed be circular to aim at understanding and assume that you have it already. Yeah.
Which is very comforting. So you don't need to be a genius. Some people are like, well, I don't get this, and I should get it to do the course, but that's circular. No, you don't get it, and you need to do the course precisely because you don't get it yet. And that's okay. He understands that. It's like, it's okay if you don't fully get it yet. But you will in time if you just keep practicing. The practice makes perfect. You will come to full understanding of the lessons and the text. Just to become aware that God, or the pure formless awareness of perfect love, as we translate it, is your true awareness. It's so simple. That's your awareness. End of. There's only one awareness. It's your awareness. It's everyone's awareness. You are that awareness. So there's nothing else. And anything else is just illusion. How simple. I mean, how simple is the truth? It's so simple. And yet, this is the journey of our life. The journey is to realize this experientially for ourselves, not just as a theory. Oh, yes, there's only one awareness. No, that I know that is true because it's my awareness. I experience it as my reality. And that's why we practice. And the spiritual practice is all bringing us into the awareness of that one awareness, that we are this awareness, and there's nothing else. Every lesson, every meditation, every breath break, it's all bringing you back into this pure formless awareness of perfect love, and accepting that it's your awareness, that this is who you are, and there's nothing else.
How do, this sounds really weird saying it now, I should have said it at the beginning. How do boundaries fit into all this? People are always harping on about boundaries, and I think, well, how can you have that in oneness?
Well, they don't. There are no boundaries in oneness. So this is another reality beyond boundaries. There's no boundaries in perfect oneness. There are no limits, no boundaries, no limits at all. It's infinite and it's eternal. So that's an example of trying to bring the truth into the illusion.
Oh yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, how do boundaries fit into oneness? Well, they don't. It's the simple answer. There are no boundaries in oneness. You might find it useful in your awakening process to have some boundaries just temporarily. Go like, okay, well, I've got to just on a practical level do certain things, but in perfect oneness, those will drop away. Those aren't absolute real. They just temporary. It's like training wheels. You need the training wheels when you're training, but then you can throw them off because they're not required in perfect oneness. So someone says, how does a boundary fit into pure formless awareness? It doesn't. That's the answer. Ultimately, your journey then is to transcend that boundary, to transcend that limit, and realize that it's only a figment of your imagination.
So when people talk about, oh, so-and-so's overstepped my boundaries, they're
Hmm.
just feeling uncomfortable. And really,
Yeah.
it's just a case of feeling into that and finding out what that is for them.
Yeah, who sets the boundary? You know, well, when that all boundaries of the ego. If you're truly enlightened, well, and there's no expectation and no judgment, then someone can't overstep your boundaries because they are no, you're just not concerned with any of that. Whatever they do is okay. I'm not, I'm not bothered about it. It's a very high state of mind. But at the extreme of it, the crucifixion demonstrated. Okay, well, crucify me. I'm not bothered. Whatever.
Somebody was saying, a coach that is well renowned was saying to me, well, where are your boundaries, Sally? And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't got any. I couldn't understand what they're on about.
Yeah, but do you see that this thought system transcends the ego entirely? You can't bring those ego concepts into it because they don't work in oneness. You've got to let all of that go as part of your journey of awakening. So again, there's a coach and saying, where are your boundaries? Because for him that makes sense. In a form identity, well, of course you have to have boundaries. But this is going beyond that and saying, no, there are no boundaries in pure formless awareness. Boundaries means conditions, means limits. So you're limited in your love, aren't you? So at a practical level, you might say, okay, well, it doesn't mean I'm just going to necessarily, someone asked me for all my money, I'm not necessarily just going to hand that over. That maybe wouldn't be wise. See, so you have to have some discernment in how you actually operate this on this plane in the world. But recognize that all boundaries are temporary and illusory.
Yeah, because if somebody was doing something today in the other room and felt like it was overstepping my boundaries slightly, but then I thought, well, it's only my mind resisting, isn't it? It's only in my mind and my thinking, oh, we shouldn't be watching the football in my office because he didn't ask permission to do so. Yeah. And then I just thought, well, he hasn't stepped over a boundary because in his mind there's no boundary and I haven't made, yeah.
So there's an example. You've got an expectation in your mind based on how you think someone should behave.
Story, yeah.
They violated that. So there's a story, but there's your self-concept attached to that. And you see that boundary, if you believe in that boundary, then you honor the self-concept that made it up and you make it stronger. And so now, no, I need to enforce the boundary. But who needs to enforce the boundary? Why? Does it actually make sense, or is it just because you want to be right?
Yeah.
So that's always what's hard. I mean, if it's genuinely threatening your well-being, then maybe it's okay. Like, no, that isn't okay. Let's say he was, making a bonfire in your living room. Okay, that's not okay, because that's on the level of form that's potentially harmful. But watching TV in your office, is that really harming anyone? No, not really, is it? It's just your sense of your expectations being violated. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So you start to see then that it's an expectation. The boundary is an expectation that you have, that you've set for no other reason than that your ego's decided that that's the limit, and now it's using that to create a separation between you and the other person when it doesn't need to be there. So it's like observing that, letting it arise and go, okay, but that feeling of separation, I can let that go. And then the boundary is no longer there because it was coming from your self-concept that wanted to create the boundary and the barrier between yourself, and it'll use an issue like football or whatever to do that.
Yeah, I did let it go and it was fine. I ignored it, but it was interesting that topic came up at the same day somebody mentioned it. Yeah, thank you for the clarity of that.
So most of these boundaries, you can just go, well, that's just nonsense. I've made that up. If something's like, threatening your health and well-being, physical, mental, emotional health and well-being, then maybe you say, okay, no, you can say no. It's not okay to, let's say someone came in and wanted to, have a bonfire in your living room, or so, no, or can I have your whole house and invite a whole lot of hippies and we're gonna have a huge party? And okay, well, be sensible. No, because that doesn't work for my space. And but at the same time, even while saying no, you could say, well, I'm not saying no because of an ego self-concept. I'm just saying no because I'm getting guidance from the Holy Spirit. That's not for my highest good. It's a different way of operating. And you can, if you're honest with yourself, you can see that resistance arising in you. It's a feeling, isn't it? It's like, oh, that shouldn't be happening, and I'm feeling the resistance. Someone asked me to do something the other day, and I felt the resistance, and I was like, but then I just sat with it for a bit and I questioned it. Well, why? Like, does it actually? Why am I resisting? I'm just resisting for the sake of resisting because I want to keep something private. She'd asked me to give her some spend slips and stuff. I want to keep it private, so it's private thoughts. I want to somehow keep it, but there's no need for that. I've got nothing to hide. So I just kind of let it go, and then Spirit found a way to do it in a way that actually didn't have to reveal, bank statements or anything like that. Just that's an example, but it was a letting go of needing to be right about it, and there was definitely a loosening of the boundary, and that then I didn't feel separate from her anymore, because the boundary made me feel separate, which is what it was designed to do.
And that's how I feel about the recording of these sessions, that I'd be a separate being, wouldn't I, resisting it if I was pushing against having these recorded sessions on YouTube. But because we're all one, it doesn't matter, does it? It's all
if there are no private thoughts, no private thoughts.
Yeah.
No private thoughts. It's all part of this healing of the one mind. Then why would I have an issue? Everything I'm talking about is actually everyone's issue. And I'm not defending any ego identity. I'm not, if someone sees it, and actually in the honesty, therein lies the healing. Someone might look at it and go, wow, it was really amazing, because your issue is exactly my issue, and you voiced it, and I could resonate with it, and that really helped me. So why not share that?
Yeah.
I've got no issue. Some people do. And it's private, mostly it's private thoughts. They're protecting the private thought protects your self-concept. So my stuff, my private thoughts and so on are very important. So no one else must know them. And so then I create a wall between myself and others. And that creates a sense of separation in my mind. Okay, so that brings us to the lesson. How are we doing on time? 1:30. Are we still wide awake, or?
Yeah.
I'm going to go out with the dog in a minute, but we'll continue until the whining starts.
No, okay. So shall we look at the lesson?
Yeah.
Have a look at the lesson, do a meditation, and then well, we can see how we go. There's actually quite a nice manual for teachers on is Jesus, does he play a special role in healing? It's got some interesting stuff in there, but if we don't get to it, I'll send you a translation. Okay, so 307, there we go. So if you can read the original and then the translated version. I can zoom in if you want. I'll make it a bit bigger. Make it into 25. Okay. All right, let me just stop the recording. Recorded another one. Okay, so the lesson, you can do the honors, Jackie. Read the original and then the translated version, and then first paragraph.
Okay. Conflicting wishes cannot be my will. Alternately, I cannot have conflicting wishes. Father, your will is mine, and only that. There is no other will for me to have. Let me not try to make another will, for it is senseless and will cause me pain. Your will alone can bring me happiness, and only yours exists. If I would have what only you can give, I must accept your will for me and enter into peace where conflict is impossible. Your Son is one with you in being and in will, and nothing contradicts the holy truth that I remain as you created me.
Okay, any thoughts on that? Should we read the alternative, and then if you want to pause and unpack it line by line, we can do that.
Okay. My source, your awareness is mine, and only that.
So
There
the
is no-
translation there, just so you know, is from will, capital W, to awareness. So your will, God's will is translated as awareness. And I've kept with that the whole way through.
That's interesting. Okay. There is no other awareness for me to have. Let me not try to make another awareness, for it is senseless and will cause me pain. Your awareness alone can bring me happiness, and only yours exists. If I want to have what only you can give, I must accept your awareness for me and enter into peace where conflict is impossible. Your extension is one with you in being and in awareness. Nothing contradicts the whole truth that I remain as you extend me.
Okay, so any thoughts on that? It's the translated version. It changes it a bit, doesn't it?
Oh,
Awareness of the will, God's will. I never really connected with that. God's will, what does that mean? God's will for me. So it's almost like God has some kind of will for what you should be doing with your life. That's often how people interpret it.
isn't there somewhere, of course, God's will for me is perfect peace and happiness.
Perfect happiness, yeah. So there's the clue. It's not a will in the sense of you will do something, and it's necessarily going to inspire you to take any action directly. But God's will is this higher awareness. It's just an awareness of love and peace and joy that is yours. Your awareness is that awareness. It's beyond action. It's about being, as he said.
Yeah.
In being and in awareness.
Yeah.
So hence we translate will as awareness. It gives it a different kind of interpretation, doesn't it?
Yeah. So will equals awareness of peace and happiness.
Yeah. It's pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's the fundamental awareness.
Right.
Wherein lies everything. If you're in pure formless awareness, perfect love, God, then by definition you're peaceful. By definition you're happy. By definition there's love. There's only one awareness. Love is one awareness. That's all.
Yeah.
No idea of separation, no perception of separation can enter into that. So let me not try to make another awareness, lowercase awareness, for it is senseless and will cause me pain. Well, that's what we tried to do. Said, I want to make another awareness. This whole awareness, pure formless awareness, infinite eternal awareness is no longer good enough for me. I want another awareness, so I'll make it up.
So that's the ego's perception.
Yeah, it's a decision to start with. I want something else, so therefore I'll invent another awareness, another will, small a. But this is senseless because it's not true. It's a deluded awareness. It's a false awareness. And what comes from false awareness is senseless and will cause me pain.
Yeah.
So that, you go back to the metaphysics, to the fundamental split in our minds, which is shown quite well here. We decided we wanted another awareness. That was the thought of separation. No, we don't want pure formless awareness. We want some other awareness. We want to be special, individual, separate and unique. And now we've created another awareness going on. That idea of separation and the specialness and everything it entails is the other awareness. he's talking about, but he's saying it's senseless. There's no point to it.
Yeah.
And look at what it leads to. It leads to massive pain and suffering. All the ills of the world come from that other awareness that we believe in.
Yeah.
But although we've believed in it, it's not true.
Yeah.
Therein lies your awakening. Just realizing that it's not true. It doesn't matter how much you believe in it and how much you try and confirm that it's true by playing it out in the dream world, it's still not true. It will never be true because only the truth is true.
Yeah.
Only pure formless awareness of perfect love is true and nothing else is true.
Yeah.
And so over and over again, he's teaching us that in all these different ways. Each lesson is a lesson in this thought system, a non-dual thought system, a non-dual awareness. Meaning there's only one. Non-dual means not two. There's only one awareness. There are not two awarenesses. There's only one awareness. There's no alternative school of non-duality. I once had a conversation with a guy, and he's like, "No, I'm of the alternative school of non-duality." I laughed. How can you have an alternative school of non-duality? That's ridiculous. It's no longer non-duality then you're back in duality. So don't call it non-duality, just call it duality. But that's again the ego trying to justify itself and go, oh well, actually, this is acceptable. I can have an alternative to oneness. And Yeshua's saying over and over and over again, there's no alternative to oneness. Your made-up alternative is pointless, useless, only causes you pain and suffering. Give it up. Let it go. It's not true. And then he says, your awareness alone can bring me happiness, and only yours exists. Over and over, he's just telling us the same, repetition. You say, well, how many times does he have to repeat the truth? Well, as many times as it takes you to actually accept it. Because you won't accept it the first time, but maybe on the 100th or the 1000th time, you might start to accept. There's only one awareness. This is the only thing that's going to work. It's the only thing that's going to make me happy. Okay, why don't I just accept that? Why am I fighting that still? Is that so difficult to accept? That there is a state of mind, this true awareness, that's totally beyond conflict. Conflict's impossible. There can be no conflict if there's only one awareness, because there's nothing to conflict with. that one awareness can't fight with itself. It is one.
Yeah.
So the source of all conflict is the inner conflict between the true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, and this false awareness that we've invented of something else, something separate from pure formless awareness. That's the source of all conflict. See that in our minds. And then that gets projected out, and then we see the conflicts in the world. So what you're seeing, with your ex and all this apparent conflict is a projection of the split in your mind.
Yeah. Yes.
And every time you forgive it or let it go, you don't believe in that separation, you're healing your mind. You're healing the split in your own mind.
Just trying to reconcile it with some things we said earlier, and your story about the court. Inspiring, you let go of the fear. That's letting go of the ego. But are you still dealing with the conflict there?
Well, it was interesting because I was in a state of mind where I think I was beyond conflict. I wasn't like fearful. I wasn't aggressive. I wasn't like, right, I'm going to win. I've got to win this. And it was just like, okay, I'm in my higher awareness and I'm going to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, I'm going to let the spirit do it. And on the level of form, you go, well, I'm in some kind of conflict because there's two thought systems going on. But in my mind, I was very clear. I was in a higher state. And in my mind, that conflict had been resolved. I'd gone, okay, there is no fear. This entire thought system that I'm coming up against is not true.
Yeah.
I'd really done, I'd really got that. And then there was on the level of form, there was no conflict. He just disappeared. There was no fight. He just walked out. It was an anticlimax in a way, but I realized spiritually what had happened. So that was the inevitable outcome, because I'd gone in my mind beyond the the fear and the aggression and anger and anything that is part of the conflict mindset. And so I was just going to do it. Do you remember the Matrix, in the last scene where he's awoken? So he's just resurrected. In shot, resurrect. Smith comes again and he's all angry, and he's in this totally transcendent state. He just like looks at him, and he blocks his punches with one arm. Do you remember that?
I don't remember. I haven't seen it with her.
You can see he's in this. He's not in a conflict state, even though Smith is angry and aggressive, and the ego's coming at him. He's not in a conflicted state at all. He's transcended that. He's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's just doing what he's doing, but he's peaceful. He's totally peaceful. And then he kicks him to the other end of the platform peacefully. He's just like, bang. And then he just jumps into him, and it's all done without a thought of conflict in his mind. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to symbolize. In that resurrected state, he'd gone to a higher state of mind. He'd gone beyond the conflict. He was still on the platform. He's still in come, okay, take you on. Courage. But he's got to go through that in order to get beyond it to the transcendent state of mind. Which, if you look at our levels of consciousness, would make sense. So go to the levels of consciousness. So you had to have courage to face the ego. So that was necessary. You had to go through that experience on the platform. And then at the end of it, he came into an awareness of his true self. He says, my name is Neo. So he claims his true self. He lifts himself up the scale massively, from courage into acceptance, reason, higher reasoning. And then finally he's killed, and then Trinity kisses him, says, I love you. So then there's love. And then he comes out of that, he resurrects, and he's in a state of peace and ineffable, and that's shown. He's gone up the scale through those experiences into a state of mind that's undisturbable. And although someone's attacking him, he's not faced. It's not really perceived as an attack. He's not in that conflict state anymore, which means he's very powerful. The guy, he just knows what he's going to do, and you can't really touch him. So he's still defending himself on the level of form, doing the movements with his arm, but it's really just not bothered. There's no conflict left in his mind. He's transcended it. So, in a way, that's what you've got to do. You face it okay, courage is required, the lower levels, to face the fear. But if you face it and you go through that, you'll transcend it. And you'll go up the scale into an acceptance of who you really are. That's part of forgiveness. And maybe a higher level reasoning. You understand that actually none of this is real, that you really are the Christ self. And that opens you up to love, joy, peace, and ultimate enlightenment. Imagine you could go into the court at a level of peace and just be like, I'm totally at peace. I'm just carrying this with me. My peace goes with me wherever I go. There's no fear. And I speak within that presence, in that peaceful presence. Be a different outcome, won't it?
I had a similar experience to your courtroom one. It wasn't in a courtroom, but it felt like it. And I was like at breakdown point. I was sobbing. I was in such a state about this abusive woman. And then I did the work on it, and conflict went. And then I had a lovely night's sleep. The next morning I confronted her, and I was in this invincible energy, like she couldn't touch me. Had a go. She had several goes. She couldn't touch me. I was just laughing. I was lighthearted. I transformed the energy of the room and everybody else in it. It was miraculous. And every time you talk about the courtroom thing, I was thinking exactly what I did. And there's nothing she could do. I had this absolute, just invincible. So I'm glad you mentioned it, because it reminded me of that. The really trying conditions, really trying, I was able to send it completely. And and
that then changes the outcome on the level of form.
But I was so certain I was going to win it. I was so certain it was a done deal the night before, after I'd got myself in the right energy.
exactly. It's like the victory is internal first.
Yeah.
All I think Stephen Covey or someone like that said, all external victory is preceded by internal victory.
Yeah.
You win first internally, and then it plays out on the, in the courtroom or the pitch or whatever. So I quite enjoy watching like sport and stuff, because you can see the psychology of it. The internal battle, the struggle in people's minds to overcome their own self-doubt and fear and so on. And the ones who will win are the ones who've done that most effectively. They've conquered the fear of failure, and the ones who don't, they're basically beaten themselves. And it shows up in form as someone else apparently doing it to you. So like in the World Cup, I mean, you pay attention to these little stories. There was a guy who was playing for the Belgian team. His name's Kevin De Bruyne. He's actually plays for Manchester City. If you follow football, you know about him. And apparently he said before the World Cup, he said, "No, I think we're too old to win the World Cup as a team." Imagine saying that. I mean, talk about defeating yourself before you even kick a ball. So he's put that belief out there. Obviously, the press gets hold of it. I mean, what's that going to do to the morale of the team? Oh no, we're too old. So he's planted the seed of their defeat right from the start. And surprise, surprise, they went out in the group stages. They didn't even make the round of 16 because the belief was lacking. And the ones that do, now I watch England, I think they've got a good chance because you can see they're playing with belief. And I was listening to he wasn't a football commentator, he was just some guy who was interviewed on the news, just a football supporter somewhere. And he said, "No, I'm really proud of the team because they're playing with a lot of love." It was so interesting. He said there's a lot of love in that camp, and they are connecting, and there's a unity, and the manager cares about them. They're not just like factors of production in winning the World Cup for him. He actually cares about them as people, and they can go to him and they can confide him. So there's a unity in the camp, and that reflects in the result. So, with that, the internal victory precedes the external victory. If they've really done that work, then they will be successful on the pitch because it's a manifestation of the team's collective consciousness. You look at this integral model, the external result, the performance outcome, is the mirror of the internal. And the good coaches understand that this is primary. You've got to get that right. You've got to get the collective consciousness, the culture of the organization, in this case, the team, right, in order for the result to come. And it's inside out, not outside in. And I think England have got it right because they're doing it inside out, not outside in. And you can see that from the energy. So it might be very interesting to see what unfolds. They may well win if they can maintain it. So now they're being tested. They're going to be tested on it. Can you sustain that in the face of more stiffer opposition? Where so far they haven't played great teams. Now they're playing the world champions. Can you sustain that unity and that belief in the face of that? And if you can, then quite likely they'll win. And if they can't, and the doubt and the fear comes in, then they'll lose. And the performance outcome just mirrors the internal state of mind of the team. So it'd be very interesting. If you watch football or anything from that perspective, it becomes fascinating because it's a mind game primarily, and then you see how it's played out on the pitch. So you can bring the spirit into everything. You can mind watch football or anything and go, I can see it from a different perspective and see the truth coming through in everything, which then shows you that it's universally applicable. These principles are in everything, everywhere, and they work everywhere. There's no exception. Okay, so where are we? Back to the lesson. So any comments on number one?
Conflict is between a capital A and a little a. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, awareness there.
Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
The
exactly.
internal conflict is
Yes,
between an A and an A.
yeah, a little A and a
Yeah.
big A, exactly.
It's funny, really, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
narrow it down to that, you go,
Yeah,
okay, it's not such a big deal then, is it?
yeah. A little awareness that's like very limited, separate, this is me, and that's my awareness of me, just a little person trying to make my way in a pretty scary world. Or am I infinite eternal awareness that actually has nothing to do with the little person at all? I'm not bound by the limits of time and space at all. And I'm completely transcendent. And that's the choice that we face every day, every moment. Which one will you identify with? And the miracle is to identify with a higher awareness. And in that process, you fulfill the whole purpose of the universe, is for you to accept that higher awareness is your awareness. That's all. It's so simple. Like, why all the drama? Why is it so difficult to just accept that awareness is your own awareness? Apparently it is. We're still here practicing and working at it, but it's that simple.
I think
Not
I've
rocket science, is it? Should be really simple. But
just got this vision of sticking some capital A's around just to remind me.
yeah, yeah, capital A. Well, it's things like I am love, or I am that I am. These are pointers just into that awareness, aren't they? I am that awareness. And so you can just say that I am loving awareness, or I am pure formless awareness, or I am just awareness with a capital A, and that'll point you there, because it just is what it is. And you just have to accept it, merge your mind into that, and then you're free.
In hypnotherapy, you can secure a vision or a color or a shape that triggers that emotion in you. So for me, I'm thinking just the black capital A. I could program that in as a key,
like an anchor. In NLP they call it an anchor, to anchor you into the state. Yeah, if it works for you, and that's all we're using here. The lessons are the anchors that he's using daily, different, and he's changing it so we don't get bored, to pull us into that awareness using the words.
You do need to change these things, because if you keep doing the same thing every day, you're ignoring it, don't you?
Yeah, and he's given us a different lesson every day, because he knows if it was exactly the same lesson every day, we'd get bored. We might do it for a week or two, and then we just go, oh, same thing again. So we need different language. We need different words, because our minds still crave variety. It's still like, oh, well, it's going to be boring if it's all the same. And also, he's giving us different perspectives on it, isn't it? So he's getting a slightly different angle, a different perspective every time, which is like a multifaceted diamond. It's like, okay, so polish that facet and that facet. Eventually, the whole thing reveals, and you realize, really, it's just one thought system with all these different facets, all the different ideas that I've learned. But it's actually it's very simple. It's a very simple truth. But I've needed to go through all the different facets, the lessons, to learn it, and accept that it's really just one diamond. The diamond is the truth in my mind. But it's a process that he's taking us through. It's a very, very well designed, thought through process that he's given us. The mind training program, second to none. I don't know another mind training program like this in the world. Do you? Do you know anything like the course?
No.
365 days. With detailed mind training, a daily lesson. It's quite unique. Very,
isn't it? Have you looked at that? I mean, that's the way of mastery. That does it with a lesson repeated every day for a month. So it's different, but it's still getting
similar methodology.
Yeah. I haven't done it. I've heard it's effective.
I haven't done it either. No. So
and where's the way of mastery from? Who did that? That's not a Jesus one, is it?
No, it was channeled.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think
apparently channeled from Jesus, but that's always suspect. I can't remember what the guy's name was, but apparently he had some personal, he was sleeping with the students and things like that. So, so I heard. So one has to then just I just go, well, yeah, you know, you've got the course. It's there from the master himself, his words. Why do you need to look anywhere else? It's all there.
Yeah.
Just practice it. Go deeper into it, and you know, you don't need to look anywhere else. So a lot of other paths are somehow tainted. So they've got, you know, it's an element of ego in them. Or, you know, the person like this guy, the channel, you know, clearly got ego invested in it, and then he brings his own ego into it, and it kind of corrupts it a bit. What I like about the course is if you just stick to, it's a book, you know, and it's a direct teaching. Stick to what he's saying, apply it in your life, you know, without making exceptions, and then you're following the guidance of he's probably the greatest spiritual master ever. He's saying, I'm in charge of the atonement. I'm in charge of that one-ment. He was the first man to fully accept his Christ identity as he was. You know, that's what he's saying, which is quite extraordinary. So you've got this person, this entity, Christ mind, teaching you day by day, step by step. Extraordinary. You've got, I mean, who could want for more? And then we've got this technology and art of letting go set up around it, you know, through the same inspiration to just help and support and like make it easier to do. So just got to be grateful and say, you know, really grateful that we're in such a good position to get it right. You know, finally in this life, you're going to get it right. You're going to do it. Isn't that good news? Yes. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to get out of here finally and awaken and do the job in this lifetime, and I don't have to have hundreds more.
Yes.
Okay, so
Number 2.
just number 2, yeah, the prayer, and then we'll go into.
I'll do both. And with this prayer, we enter silently into a state where conflict cannot come, because we join our holy will with God's in recognition that they are the same. Alternatively, and with this prayer, I enter silently into the state where conflict cannot come, because I join my whole awareness with perfect loves in recognition that they are the same. Yeah. Number 2 gets my vote. Number 2 gets my vote.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about the language of awareness and love, and you know, this alternative language. Just it's softer, isn't it? It does something to your mind that just seems to open it up to
a completely different vibration.
Yeah, to the genuine spirit of the course. You know, what's the spirit of it? It's a spirit of love, a very gentle, kind, loving awareness actually behind it. So surely, you know, we want to open to that awareness, and if we can use language that does that, then it can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Will sounds very strong, doesn't it? Willful.
Sorry, say that again.
Will sounds very strong. Yeah, willful comes to mind. The word willful, which is, you know, not quite of the same energy. I mean, it can be a power, but it's that sort of power versus force thing that David Hawkins talks about.
I think, I mean, that's why I translated will, because will has a certain connotation of, you know, will be done, your will be done. It's very kind of, you know, the old paradigm of God was God is going to instruct you and you must obey him. He's you must do his will, otherwise you're a bad person and you're going to be punished. So it's will, it's force, which is egoic. You know, it's not just a lovely surrendered awareness, a loving awareness. It's like a connotation of some kind of dominating will. Yeah,
it's an edict.
Which a lot of people will probably have that perception based on their conditioning of, you know, their Christian background or whatever.
Yeah.
So you want to get them over that. You want to get them to see beyond that, and often the language becomes a barrier. I suppose you could. The other day it was interesting, Sally, because you read it in the original, and you said, "Oh, I don't actually have too much of an issue with it anymore." But I think what's got you over the conditioned response was a lot of the translation. So that's why we do it.
Yeah.
So ideally, you can just look beyond it, and you can really feel into these words. Now, what's he actually saying here is that your awareness is the same. It's one awareness, loving awareness, pure formless awareness. You have that awareness. It's your source's awareness. It's your awareness. There's only one awareness. You are it. It is you, and just accept that. It's so simple, and then you can only be happy and peaceful in that awareness. I mean, it's such a simple message, really.
Yeah.
But it's apt because the ego is terrified of that. It's going to be distorted if it can.
Yeah.
So
it's very simple, but the implications are huge. They're everything, aren't they?
Yeah, massive, mind blowing. I'm just that awareness. That means no other awareness is true. Therefore, everything here is false. Everything created from this false awareness of a limited self is false. That means my entire life here, my body, my parent separate identity, everything I value as a human being in this world is false and actually doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's pretty radical, pretty massive for most people to wrap their heads around, but that's what it's saying.
Yeah.
So the journey is to accept the level of falsity that we've invented, see it for what it is, accept the truth as the replacement, and be okay with that. Just, okay, I get it, and I'm okay. I can be here for a while because I don't really believe in any of it, and I know that ultimately, my destination is sure. But while I'm here, I'll live in this loving awareness, and I'll be an agent, an instrument for that, to try and bring it more of that awareness into the world. That's my only purpose, and that's okay. It's a temporary function. That's all right. I can live my life that way. It's not really my life. I'm just going to be allow myself to be done through by this awareness. This awareness is living through me, and that's okay. For as long as that needs to happen, I open to that. I'm not going to judge that it shouldn't be happening, but know that this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. Kind of obvious. Nothing's going to last forever in form. So ultimately, when it's time to go, I lay my body aside, and I just merge back into the awareness that I've identified with, and I know I am. There's no need for a body anymore, and it's all. I mean, that's all enlightenment is. Just merge into the awareness that you are. As Sally,
she's taking the dog out.
gone for a walk.
Oh, she's coming on the phone, I think.
She's coming on her phone. Yeah. Welcome, Sally.
Hi, I'm just going for a dog walk. I'll listen to the meditation while I'm out.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, shall we do a meditation then?
Great. 10 minutes.
Okay. So, just making yourself comfortable.
Okay.
Sitting, standing, as the case may be. If you're sitting, feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. And the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And you can clench your sphincter muscle. It's a muscle used to squeeze the last drops of urine out. Stop the flow. So it's called a root lock in yoga. Have you done yoga? Mula Bandha, I think, is the Sanskrit term for it. So you lock that energy in and you feel this warm wave of energy rising up the spine. With the breath into your heart center. Just pull the energy into your heart. You can put one hand in your heart. Connect with your heart energy. And then draw the energy up the spine. Into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. So just calm the mind. Notice any thoughts and emotions, any physical sensations going on, particularly anything that feels negative, it's limiting, contracted, constricting, in any way, shape, or form. Remind yourself that conflicting wishes cannot be my will, or I cannot have conflicting wishes. It's not possible. Because I have one awareness. So in that knowledge, just exhale and let go. Blow away this false awareness. Nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine. Pull the last remaining air out. And just rest here. And deep peace and stillness. Come between breaths, gap between breaths. Enter into this eternal state of mind. Quiet, calm, peaceful. At one. The spirit of who you really are. Beyond delusions. Just listen to these words in this very quiet, calm state of mind, breathing in and out through your nose, observing the breath flowing into your nostrils and out of your nostrils. Stomach rises and the stomach falls. Let yourself get more and more relaxed with each breath, sinking deeper, staying deeper and deeper. Into the still, calm, peaceful silence, beyond conflict. There is just pure formless awareness. So I say to yourself, my source, your awareness is mine, and only that. There is no other awareness for me to have. Let me not try to make another awareness with a small a. It is senseless and will cause me pain. Your capital A awareness alone can bring me happiness, and only yours exists. If I want to have what only you can give, I must accept your awareness for me and enter into peace where conflict is impossible. And breathing in this awareness, using every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in this loving awareness. And surrender into peace. with this prayer, we enter silently into a state where conflict cannot come, because we join our whole awareness with perfect loves and recognition that they are the same. And so just join your awareness, allow this one awareness, fearfulness, awareness of perfect love, we call it God, Source, Father, whatever you want to call it. Just an awareness to arise in your mind, to envelop you, envelop any thoughts going on in your mind. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about, just breathe, relax, be still, and sink into this awareness fully and completely. The next 2 minutes of deep silence. And if any thoughts arise to seemingly disturb this deep peace, this unity with your source, just breathe in, acknowledge them briefly, look at them, and remind yourself that conflicting wishes cannot be my will. I cannot have conflicting wishes, in other words, because there's only one awareness. And that awareness cannot conflict with itself or with anything or anyone. So in that realization, blow all of that conflict away, letting it all go. The breeze of your breath, nothingness that it really is. And setting yourself into this deeper awareness. Anchoring yourself into the state, higher awareness, capital A awareness. And just stay there for another minute or so of deep silence, just experiencing the gifts of this awareness, love, peace, joy, everything you really want is in this awareness, and you can experience it right now for the next minute. Deep silence. And so just gently coming back, this deep awareness into awareness of your body, the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale, scan your mind once again, noticing any thoughts, any emotions, any related body sensations going on for you. And if there's anything that feels at all negative, limiting, contracted, constricting, then just let it all go. The breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is, blowing it all away. And finding peace. So exhale, notice the air flowing out, chest and stomach sucked back in. Just anchor yourself into state of mind. Notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands. Subtle flow of air on your skin perhaps. Breathe that air in, notice any smell to it. Taste in your mouth, notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. But noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state of mind. Which is this higher awareness that the lesson's pointing to. Your own true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, we call it. It's just a word that points to something that's beyond words, it's eternal. If you can get a glimpse of that, access to this higher state of mind, then you're in that awareness. Anchor this awareness in for the rest of the evening and on into your weekend. To help you stay there, just practice today's lesson and tomorrow's course lesson. Practice well, meditate on them to keep you in this awareness. keep the ego away and stay in this higher awareness. That's all you have to do. So it is said and so it is done. So now on the count of 3, open your eyes and just take a minute to look around, observing the various objects in the room around you from this state of pure awareness. You notice that without interpretation or judgment, and you're not giving them any meaning, it's all the same, whether you look at a lamp or a wall or your own hand or another body or a picture or your phone or computer. It doesn't really matter. It's the same awareness underlying all of it. So just look around at half a dozen objects, acknowledge that awareness. So then God is with you everywhere. God goes with you everywhere because God is this awareness. And that is what it means to live in an enlightened state. So I hope this meditation, the sessions helped you connect with that awareness, and that'll help you stay there, certainly for the rest of the evening and on into your weekend. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Shall we do Sunday evening? I think it could work. Sunday evening.
Yeah, great.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, lovely, fantastic.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect actually. Lovely.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Another very inspiring session.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. Bringing the spirit in and kicking the ego out. Okay. Bye for now. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and the session. So thank you to Sally and Jackie for joining. Great session. Hope you enjoyed the recording. And do join me for the final masterclass of the year. If you're watching this as a recording, join me on theaolg.com. You can register there and find out more about this Art of Letting Go program. So it's me signing off. Thanks for joining, and namaste, which means the true self, the true awareness in me, acknowledges and honors that same pure formless awareness of perfect love in you.